Tell me how many's on before you kick it.
Okay, we have Deb Adams, Reggie Foster.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Okay, this is Thursday. It was Wednesday yesterday. Thursday, November the 4th, 2021, 9 a.m. I'm Bill Kanda, Custer County Commissioner, and we will convene the meeting of the Board of Commissioners here in the boardroom. It's being recorded by Kelly Camper, our clerk. It's also being recorded by YouTube and Zoom. And as always, please turn your phones off if you've got them on. Smoke them if you got them. All right, let's please stand for the pledge, and let's see if Bob McDonald remembers.
Oh, yeah. Okay, pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bob. Wanted to highlight you because you did such a great job
Okay.
at that funeral, and it was a great honor. You guys, I'm really tickled on you, Brian, and the team out there honoring Lynn McGree like you did with that flyover.
I think it was worth the effort.
It was absolutely, people were teary-eyed over it, and it makes chills run down my backbone. Remember it. Thanks for doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to your report too, but you know.
That's not as exciting.
It's not as exciting. So thank you. Okay, roll call, Kelly.
Commissioner Kanda,
Here.
Commissioner Flowers,
Present.
Commissioner Day,
Present.
Attorney Clint Smith,
Present.
and Clerk to the Board Kelly Camper present.
Any amendments? Okay. No, sir. None here either. This will be a short meeting, Kelly.
It looks like it.
Okay. Approval of the minutes, and there are none that I'm aware of. And our commissioner items, Tom, today.
I did a little research. I was sorely mistaken yesterday. The Board of County Commissioners has the obligation to grant or deny any short-term rental applications. So according to the zoning resolution, Jackie needs to bring all those to us. The Planning Commission does not have the authority to deny an application. They only have the authority to recommend to us denial or approval. So I will reach out to Jackie and apologize to her. She did her job. We just felt
Yeah,
so.
I thought the same way, although I can see the point, but I also can see the point that we could deny one they recommend for approval.
Certainly.
So that.
So I asked her to technically, we ought to probably do that today.
Reason why not?
Act on that. We wouldn't necessarily need her here to do that. They postponed one and denied two, right? Or recommended denial for two. So given that, maybe I would move to amend the agenda to add consideration of short-term rental applications today under new business.
Yeah, because we could turn down a denial.
Yeah, we could approve one that they
That's what I
recommend
mean.
for denial. We could deny one they approve. for
That's right.
recommend.
Makes sense.
Or we could accept their approval. We've got three issues. So that's my motion. Sorry, I know I'm a little out of whack here, but
No, I'll second that. We can add that to the agenda. It's a good thing. And Jackie's not here, but
she's given us her
We got the
documentation from
documents.
yesterday. So
can you copy those two denials? Do you have the ability to do that? I've got,
Let me see.
if I had the, I think yeah, Jackie's package is in there.
Yep, I have.
yeah, we
The
have.
day before she sent
it.
it to us.
Yep, I have it.
Okay,
So I would Let me restate that motion, just to make sure it's clear. I would move that we act on the planning commission's recommendation to deny 2 applications.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded to amend the agenda to act on the denial of the 2 applications for short-term rentals that Jackie presented. All in favor, say aye. Kevin?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And aye. All right,
That's all I have.
now you can do, is there any other items?
No.
Kevin?
I went to that light presentation last night over at the firehouse. Huber Subaru had bought these lights here for all the first responders.
They have the barbecue too?
They do make things nice and don't look directly into the white ones because they're very bright.
You put that in your rear window, everybody will stop and think they're arrested here.
They have multiple functions on them, so
That is pretty cool.
they magnetic. You got a base here that you could put
Put it
under
in your pocket or something.
Yeah, and then they also have a clip, and that's also available for.
I mean, they present.
The sheriff's office had already received theirs, but the sheriff's office, our department, EMS, Wetmore Fire, and then there are some extra ones as
Pretty
well.
impressive.
I believe it was a total of, excuse me for interrupting, I believe it was a total of 90 that they donated.
Wow. Thank you, Reggie.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
Thank you for taking care of me like that.
Watching out for you.
So, but it was a very good presentation. They also furnished barbecue for everybody that was there. It was a good evening and very positive. And
A lot of people.
there was a lot of people there, and there was probably 50 that showed up. And so, but I would just like to extend my thanks to them, and forgive me, Reggie, I forget your neighbor's name.
Cole is our neighbor, and he's a very active member in our community. He saw a need with the sheriff's office, picked up 30 lights and donated them himself to the sheriff's office. Huber Subaru, for whom he is the service manager, saw what he did, thought it was an incredible action, and said, we want to help the rest of the community and make sure all of the first responders have a guardian angel light. And so they picked up the cost for the remainder of the lights that we needed in our county.
And so I would like to extend my thanks to them because that was a very generous effort and something good for the entire community.
You want to send them a letter from all of us? You want to type one up? Just a thank you. Be nice.
Do you have a contact name?
Cole would be one. He visited here in Custer County, or the other gentleman that was here was, I can get that name. from Reggie.
Yes.
Yeah, get both.
So Cole Collins is our West Cliff resident, and Alex is the marketing director for Huber Subaru, and I will forward you guys their contact information.
Good.
Good.
Yeah, I think it'd be appropriate to send them a letter and the commissioners and thanking them.
Good deal. Thank you, Reggie, for having the info.
Recognizing Cole as well. I'd like to send it to their marketing director.
You bet, both guys.
And thank you, Reggie, for helping to set all that up last night. That was a good evening.
It was my pleasure. We have benefited from the services of our first responders, and it is really an honor to be able to recognize them and give them the things that they need. And as Cole said, if it keeps just one of our first responders safe, then it's worth every minute and every dollar that they invest.
All right. Yeah, it sure does. Thank you, Reggie.
That's all I have.
Yeah, I was planning to go to that, and I was down at the mayor's roundtable. My item here to bring you up to speed on, and that lasted until about 6:30 when I got back here.
Well, thanks for representing us there last night. I
Yeah.
assumed,
Thank you.
based on your comments, that you were going to go, so thanks for representing us.
They said free food, so I showed up.
Yeah, I heard the free food part too. That was a good thing. I would love to have been. So anyway, thank you, Reggie. And like I said, I did attend the mayor's roundtable. I thought it was a great thing to do, and I think we ought to take turns doing that with them once in a while. It's a good thing. Go down there with the mayors of Silver Cliff and West Cliff's invited all the mayors of the Fremont County little towns. And they include Salida in it as well. It's pretty broad. Once in a while, they got somebody that came down also from Teller and Park County once in a while. If there's an issue that affects everybody. So it's worth the thing. That's nice to be able to talk and have ideas, share ideas, and actually come up with things we might be able to do together to save some money and meet this common goal for all the counties that are involved or in the town. So that was a good thing. And they did tell me that it's worthwhile for our participation in NACO. They're all part of the NACO. Debbie Bell in particular pointed that out to me. All right. Okay, with that, is there any other items you guys here? How about you, Clint?
I've got nothing.
And our visiting admin, are you?
I have nothing either.
Thanks. All right, any other public comment? Anybody here or online?
I'd like to speak.
Hold on one second. Did you?
She's okay.
Okay.
Let her go ahead.
All right, go ahead, Debbie.
Okay, so this is Deb Adams, and I'd like to speak about the topic that Tom brought up this morning. As you're aware, I have been paying attention to the short-term rental issue and county process since the beginning. I have attended many PC meetings when able to be present. Unfortunately, I missed the recent meeting because of quarantine with COVID. Based on what I have heard about the meeting, I would like to make a request. The Planning Commission, and this is, Tom kind of brought this up, so I am repeating. The Planning Commission has the task to review short-term rental permits to make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for final approval. The decision is the authority of the Board of County Commissioners. With that said, I would like to address yesterday's meeting where Jackie presented 4 permits with 2 denied, 1 approved, and 1 tabled again. It seems organized opposition came out in full force to make noise about their peace and quiet and speculate what could happen if the short-term rental permit was approved. Their speculation was expressed based on the things they don't like and the things they fear. As this whole short-term rental process is a new experience for everyone involved, I would like to recommend to the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners that when a property owner is 100% compliant with the permit process and rules, pays the $500 fee, crosses every T, dots every I, that the applicant is approved for a 1-year permit despite the opposition of neighbors who scrutinize and speculate what could happen to their neighborhood and what people may do. The neighbors have been given the opportunity to express their fears and dislikes, but that should not be a factor to deny a short-term rental permit to a responsible property owner who has invested in the county and is following the rules. Neighbors should not have the power or right to dictate what another neighbor can do with their property. Would any of us like that? I would like to request the Board of County Commissioners show consideration for property owners and approve a 1-year short-term rental permit for the two denied by the Planning Commission because of opposition. At this time, as everyone works through the process, a one-year permit should be given to every applicant that follows the rules. This will then give the neighbors the opportunity to officially record any infractions or infringements that actually happen from having strangers in their woods. Thank you for your consideration for a fair and just decision.
Okay, excuse me, thank you, Debbie. And you did hear our comments at the beginning of the meeting. We recognize it is our authority. And that
I
we
did.
have to reconsider that. So that's,
Yes.
and thanks. And you said you missed that meeting.
I missed that meeting because we were in quarantine with COVID.
Okay, then you got your information from recordings or what, however.
No, I was listening to the meeting yesterday, and so I heard Jackie, and then I did speak to people that were actually at the meeting. So I'm basing my opinion on what happened from 3 different people that I spoke with that were at the meeting, that basically, in a nutshell, were embarrassed by the actions.
Okay, thanks. That's good input.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment? Yeah, did you have something? Okay.
I have a question. This is Reggie.
Yeah, Reggie.
When the Planning Commission's recommendation comes to you all, to the Board of County Commissioners, does the applicant then have the opportunity to come in and speak with you guys regarding the recommendation from the Planning Commission?
Absolutely.
And so how will they be, do we notify them that this is going to come up in front of the Board of County Commissioners and they have the opportunity to attend the meeting so that they can answer questions?
I think probably in hindsight here and thinking it through, because the process is new to everybody. I agree. I think it should be if there is an opportunity. Actually, we didn't see anybody yesterday other than Jackie. So you would have thought, everybody thought they were approved, I guess. Maybe they didn't know they were denied. Oh, here comes Jackie.
Well, to clarify, the Planning Commission meetings that I've attended pertaining to short-term rentals, the Planning Commission informs those applicants that they will be making a recommendation to the commissioners.
And so they knew, and yet they didn't come anyway. Did they know they were going to be presented to us, or did they think it was over at that first denial, Jackie?
The Planning Commission tells them it's over, but let me read 9.6. It's called supplementary
Speak up.
regulations.
He loud.
Supplementary regulations for special use permits. That such use does not create any danger to the safety of the citizens and surrounding area, does not cause water pollution, and does not create substantial amounts of offensive noise, vibration, smoke, dust, odors, heat, glare, or other objectionable influences beyond the boundaries of the property in which such is located. So when the first short-term rental was denied, the neighbors came in and presented a case of they were against it and for what reasons. And they said that, and it wasn't just the people that received the letter next door, it was a bunch of other neighbors, because we only contacted adjoining neighbors, but some others had shown up too, because they had complaints about the noise and people trespassing, and they believed it was a residential area and they didn't want all the traffic. So during a meeting, the neighbors are also taken into account. And so the the short-term rentals that were passed previously, most of the neighbors wrote in and said, we don't have any problems. But then the last two that we did, they had major problems with the short-term rentals, and they had experienced it prior to being notified.
Where did they experience it? There, or was this a short-term rental that was already in operation?
Yes.
And therefore they complained because they had firsthand knowledge of it,
Correct.
which I think is what, and from Debbie's comments, it was assumed they didn't know enough yet to have that opinion. So maybe this is a bit different case.
No, they,
Because they did
this-
know.
they did the, one of the participants got up and had known from firsthand, because she had ran into some of the short-term renters and asked them where they were staying. So I believe that in my opinion, that is what the planning commission is there for, to take into account the whole situation and not just give a blanket yes to everyone.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead, Kevin, you got.
I was just gonna ask if we shouldn't go ahead and wait until this actually came up on the agenda, because I probably have a question.
I was gonna do the same thing. Let's read this, we've got it on the agenda now. Into this meeting to discuss more of it. So we can get into the
Okay, so
details.
just have Tina call me.
We will.
May I be present for this?
Yeah, he should be. And in fact, I have some other questions too that we need to clarify. Because
Did you get my email this morning?
No,
Okay, will you look when you get back to your office?
yes.
thanks, Jackie, for stopping by. All right, any other public comment? Gina?
I just received an email, and I wanted to let you guys know that Kathy Garcia will not be able to attend our meeting today, but she
Okay.
is in town for mobile office hours.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments? All right. Hearing none, let's move on then to staff reports.
I'm sorry, I had a public comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes,
State your name.
Jeremy Hockett, I'm a resident of Rosita. I'm here today to ask if there was any follow-up on my last week's conversation we had as far as what happened with the police and everything being here. Was anything done outside of the meeting besides me just coming here? Did anybody have a conversation or do anything?
I did not.
No, sir.
Okay. And is there going to be one?
The only thing that I did, and I wanted to clarify if there are other such actions countywide in other counties, and I got the word that is so. So they do what we call joint exercises to practice the communications if it were a terrible emergency of some kind, like a prison breakout, a big fire, not a fire, but other threats. The police would be involved in. So it would have been nice to have a little more, from my point of view, and I made this comment in the meeting, to have some warning as a commissioner to know that it's going to go on. Everybody had the same.
Yes, that's what I heard as well.
Okay.
Just want to know if there was follow-up, and that's it. That was my question. Was there any follow-up?
If I could respond, Jeremy, I've thought about what you brought up, and I think we talked about this, but I just want to reiterate that the sheriff is an elected official for our county. He does not answer to the Board of County Commissioners. We don't have any authority over what he does.
So where do I go to complain about this then?
I would talk to the sheriff.
You can talk to the sheriff.
It was his operation. The county had nothing to do with it.
That's why I said it would have been nice for us to know, because
Yes, and that's
the
what-
county
yeah.
has ancillary issues if something happens that we don't know about it, but the
Does-
sheriff usually does do that.
Yeah, I understand he doesn't run with total autonomy though. He still has to.
Well,
report what's
his
going on.
budget is
No, he
through us. He
doesn't.
doesn't tell us.
That's my point. He, just like Kelly's an elected official, she doesn't have to report anything she does to us. The only time we officially interact is through the budget process. The commissioners have the authority to set the budget for those elected officials, but that's it.
But I'll tell you one thing that is similar. If they step out of line and did something that would impact the county, it does impact us if it were illegal, immoral, and unethical, that kind of thing.
Yes.
I do know that the treasurer in El Paso, that Adams County, I can't remember, hasn't reported any to the commissioners on any of the budget items that by statute she's reported to. So what is the county doing? They're suing her. We have recourse. If it
Yes.
steps out.
And I'm getting an education on this too as well. So thanks for putting up with me.
Okay, yeah, and thanks for being a good citizen.
Thank you.
And there were some people that I know of that were pulled over as well, and that work here even, and they actually expressed appreciation, I guess, that they were out there doing that. So, it's a difference of opinion.
Yeah, there's always two sides.
Yeah.
So,
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? All right, Jeremy, you can hang around all you want.
I appreciate it. No, thank you for putting up with me.
All right, now the highlight. Airport report.
Nothing to report.
No, yeah. Yeah, coming by.
Time for that?
Yeah,
they get you some fuel the other day.
we'll start off with the normal fuel sales. Let's see, gallons sold for the month of October. 579.6. Revenue, 2,892.22. That leaves us 2,266 in the tank. We did get a fuel delivery, excuse me, on the 5th of October of 1,993 gallons. Let's see, we had the airport closed yesterday for sheriff, the office, sheriff's office training. They were out there with the cars.
Driving training.
Yeah, trying to wreck their car. I don't know what they were doing.
Speeding down the runway,
Yeah, exactly.
speed of light.
So it was, actually, I stopped by, it was interesting, I guess. Let's see. That's about it. I mean, it's been a pretty quiet month.
When are we gonna, when is Brian planning to bring the SIP in so I can see what you got, so we can get it entered per Caitlin's request? She gave us that extension. The plan
For what now?
to enter the capital investment plan that
Oh.
we had to re-wicker, she gave us an extension because of Lynn's death.
Yes, we met up this weekend.
Yeah,
I believe JC was will.
yeah, JC and Brian were gonna get
Yeah.
together with me so I could,
Yeah, they're gonna send something into whoever they send it to.
right, okay.
So
well,
it should be,
I'll give Brian a call.
okay,
Is he around, or is he on a trip? He's still here, and he's not on a trip.
No, he's around.
All right. I just tell him I'll try to get a hold of him today, see what he's planning on
I
doing.
believe he's around.
I think is more generous. Yeah, she's gonna give us beyond Friday, I think, but I'd like to get it done sooner than later. So we're in sync.
Other than that, just some basic maintenance issues we'll deal with. Be quiet.
See, the fuel tank's supposed to be done.
Yeah, fuel
Sure.
tank, I got an email into the manufacturer. We're supposed to see it within the next week or so. And I'm trying to get the final numbers together, so we can get that invoice, because obviously we won't get it shipped until
Till they get it.
I'm gonna try to expedite that and get the county whatever they need there. So I'll know something probably by the midweek coming up.
Okay.
So,
Speaking of the fuel tank, you guys gonna meet with who had the idea of buying a truck, and then that fell through, and we're gonna try to put a plan together, see if that group wants to buy a tank.
Yeah, we actually, this weekend, we went through that and I put the numbers together to let them know if they wanted to
Pursue it.
invest, and help, make that project happen. And then if we get a good response, we'll
Okay,
come back and figure it out or see if it's an option.
okay, so just look, you haven't abandoned it, that would have been my question, because
Oh, no.
they really
it's
do
alive.
want Jet A, and we can certainly endorse that because of the,
In fact, we put it in,
Search and
I think
rescue.
in a capital budget.
yeah,
or-
the tank's always been there and it's
Yeah.
been moved, but it'd be nice to have, we can move that anywhere if they really want to invest in it. It'd be nice to
Well,
know how
we
strong. the
moved it
feeling is.
around in case they said yes, then we can look at the ramp expansion. So as far as numbers wise, so
Mhm.
it would fall in place a little more strategically,
Okay.
so.
And then I saw the other issue, I don't know if Tom's aware of it, or Kevin, is trying to widen that runway. I know that the state supports it going to, what's the width of it right now?
Yeah,
It's 50 feet or 60,
I
whatever.
think it's 50, yeah, 50 or 60.
They're willing to go as far as 60 feet, but I think you said you needed to go to 75 foot, and they're not willing to work a grant toward that big of width. Is that true?
Yeah,
So that's something to think about for the future.
well, we have that in there. I forget all the details, when 4, 5, 6 years out, I mean, whatever it was.
Okay, well, see what it goes.
What's the length of that runway, by the way?
Length, basically 7 feet.
7,200.
Almost a mile and a half.
I actually was asked that question the other day, so
When you're plowing the snow, it's long. That's all I know. So,
Looking at the specs of the tank, I'm curious as to the weight of that tank.
the weight,
How heavy is it, Tank.
I know that you had on your report to schedule a crane for that. Made me ask myself, I wonder how heavy that tank is.
the actual tank itself, well, empty, it's 39,000 pounds. Full,
20 tons.
it's about 100,000. That's why we have a pretty beefy head.
Takes a semi, that's a load limit on
Yeah.
a semi, basic. Almost.
They come in at what, 80 max or something like that?
State requirements.
And we're still doing the environment safe. That's who we're getting it from.
Fire safe, yeah. Fire safe, yeah.
Should be soon.
That's all I got.
Anything else, Tom?
not for me.
Well, thanks.
All right, gentlemen.
Sir,
Go ahead. Kelly's got a question, Bob.
It's not a question. I just want to say how empty that
Yeah.
chair feels today.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate to see him come by himself.
No.
I know what you meant. Gentlemen, enjoy your day.
Thanks.
yeah, I see you fired off.
Yeah.
Take care, buddy.
Will do.
Hang in there.
Will do.
Okay.
Guys, will.
See you later.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are
See,
you?
I'm good.
Boy, we were spending so much time together and was it something I said? Haven't heard from you guys.
Likewise.
The order.
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
Okay, so we didn't get anything from you.
You did not. One day you will. I promise
I know you're
that. I promise that.
So what do you got going?
All right, so just a couple things. Again, just kind of recap on the budget hearings and the fact that those are complete. That we were that currently working on updating this year's expenses and making sure that all of the accounts are correctly distributed. So that's this week and next week. And then once I have that, I'll be able to look at the overall picture and where we're at on the budget versus what we decided in the budget hearings. So just so everyone is aware, that's kind of the process there. And then we had set a workshop on November 17th to discuss that overall picture. At least I thought that was the case. So we may need to revisit that with another item I have here, so we can hold off on that. Okay. Making sure that's the date or not, but
That's what I have. So,
okay. So that's where the budget's at. Again, I just appreciate that time with you all and with each department to really get from a bird's eye view to in the weeds picture of everything that's going on in the county. So that was super helpful for me, this being my first time. And but that being said, that process will change dramatically for next year, just to try to make that more efficient on all ends, to start having, I think, all those conversations that we had. At this point, I'm thinking our conversations I'll have prior to. And so the hearings themselves probably will look more like a review slash if somebody has any sort of qualm with where they're at with the set budget that we come up with ahead of time.
like almost an appeal.
An appeal, yeah.
Overstated, but
Right. Yeah, exactly. Hey, we've got this project coming up. You wouldn't have known that. You didn't account for it in the budget you gave us. So we want to make that case
We
here.
have to make it balanced.
Right.
It's not balanced yet.
Yep.
So we have to deal.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't think it was time wasted by any means. I hope nobody else does, but.
so you think the meeting on the 17th, the timing is okay, or is that?
So the reason I bring that up is because I've been turned on to the Colorado Government Finance Officer Association, and they have a conference that week. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that particular association.
It's a good thing for you to do.
But I do think it would be a good conference to go to.
What days are you at?
It would be the 16th, the afternoon of the 16th through the 19th. So almost that week.
Well, that would open, meaning that we need 22, 23. See,
For that, yeah.
I wrote something down on the 23rd. You have anything on the 23rd?
The 23rd is the
SAR. I
SARS.
said SAR. It didn't say Adrian, then I saw him.
Can we not bring that up?
Yeah, I know. That's what time is that one? 1 o'clock?
That's 1 to 4.
Would you want to meet after that then, most likely, or instead of the 17th?
We could shoot for a 15th. But that would be the only other time.
Would it be more productive to meet after your
I
conference or
think
not?
it would.
That would ensure that I have everything done.
Yeah, I want you to have
I don't
everything
want to,
done.
yeah,
Not be scrambling.
I'd be busting it.
So we're all
I
in sync with
think
you.
so.
See, I had a comment there and I held it.
Now it's gone.
No, it's still there.
We can hit mute real quick.
You gotta
Yeah.
So,
go ahead
I-
and comment.
yeah, if there's a question of you being ready for us on the 15th, I'd rather have you have all your ducks in a row.
Yeah.
When we met.
I'd be ready regardless. It would be less stressful for me if it was after the association.
Since Adrian ruined the week of Thanksgiving meeting, it's okay for me. to
Might
do it
as
on
well,
that
yeah.
Or before his meeting.
Okay. Yeah, if we wanted to, you said the 22nd.
Like 2 or 23 in the morning, 1 or 2. How long do you think it's gonna take? 3, 4 hours?
No,
Three?
I mean, to me, it's a report on where we're at and where everything shakes out. So X amount over, or best case scenario, hey, everything's great.
Want to do it in the morning on the 23rd? Would that be better?
Yeah, that would be fine. If you said that
We can.
the SAR meeting was the 23rd,
It's 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, yeah, that morning would be great.
Workshop at 9.
9, you be ready at 9, you get out of bed at 9.
Oh, well, I think
How do you
so,
want
yeah.
to pose a question?
Yeah. Been doing it for a while now, so hopefully. Let's make sure. Yeah, that'll be fine. That morning.
Scratch it on the 17th. Huh?
Send us out an invite. Let's see if we can get the system working.
Will do.
23rd at 9. I've kind of gone back and forth on that conference, but I would hate to, I think the networking in itself and some of the breakout sessions, it's up in Loveland, would be beneficial on the front end than to wait another year and then do
So you
that.
think we can wait till the 23rd, you can still get everything pulled together in time for your deadline in December, and we won't make any decisions on the final budget, so that's going to postpone the decision on the budget until the 29th.
29th, which is what we were thinking about doing anyway.
Right, that's the way I had understood it, was the final decision would be later anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay, I like it.
Sounds good. Thank you. Next thing that was brought to my attention was dedicated service. Those checks that we have done, or that addition into payroll that we have done in the past. I have some information as far as how that was done. I guess this was 2019 that Virginia was able to get me, where that would be a $120 check for employees that were employed 6 months or more in their full-time, 60 for those were 3 to 5 months full-time, and 30 for those who were 2 months or less full-time, and then part-time employees getting a $60 check. So I just wanted to ask if that's a process we want to move forward with. It's not something that we accounted for in the budget next year, and so far as I can tell was not accounted for this year. Not saying we shouldn't do it, I'm just saying it should be accounted for. So, and
You have a total cost.
I don't, I just got this morning, so I could run that total cost.
But when does it have to be approved or not?
I think the thing last year was approving it before payroll in November so that it would go out in the payroll check. I would suggest that doesn't need to be the case, because I think it would be nice to probably do this as a special run, and we would just run one check that could be handed out to everybody in December. Which it wouldn't be too far from.
Easier to
Yeah.
do it properly.
Right. It wouldn't be too far from that pay date, because you'd want to get it to people sooner rather than later. But I think it would be kind of a nice thing for either department heads or point the contacts to walk around and here's your dedicated service.
Kelly?
I think that, because we used to do them on a separate check, because it's $100 is what it is. The reason it's 120 is because there was something that came up that they had to take taxes out of it.
Right.
So that's why we put it in our payroll check.
Yeah.
And Donna put it up to 120 so that you weren't
Deduction,
really
you were
paying
still having $100.
taxes. You were still having $100, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and so that's what Virginia had said as well.
Okay,
The special run for checks wouldn't be like it was then. It would actually be payroll checks. Taxes would get taken out.
oh, okay.
It would just be a special
Just be a
run
special
for
run,
payroll.
just a different.
Yep, exactly.
You say taxes would be taken out.
Yeah, so that was, I think the auditor at that time had said like, yeah, you can't do, they were handwritten checks
Yeah,
and for $100 and they're like, you have to be taking taxes out.
that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the other thing we talked about at the time was instead of doing it that way, to give everybody, like Road and Bridge, they get a,
For a safety
Gift
award,
card
they get
or
a gift
something.
card to.
yeah, and they
like,
talked about doing something like that instead of doing $100. It's just giving people a
$100 should be,
$100
Card.
gift card to where.
buy whatever you want.
Yeah.
Check does the same thing though.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I don't know if, I think we'll look at that maybe next time is, because I did wonder about, you know, could we, is it legal for us to do like buy X amount of employees, $100 Visa gift card? And then they don't have to pay tax. We don't have to worry about that either. They get
Look
a
into it.
flat amount. So, but I think that'll have to be a next time.
That might be
So the-
something that we can talk about during our personnel policy stuff too, because
Hmm.
we discussed that, Tom, when we were working on it before, when the 5-year thing went away, is doing
Yeah.
something different there and, yeah, combining those two or something.
Okay. Yep. So I'll get those.
The amounts again.
Yeah. And I can print off a copy of this and send it to it. Yeah.
Well, I know as somebody that sat on the other side of the table, that's something that is appreciated
Mhm.
from the employees. I mean, it's that little pat on the back.
Yeah.
At the end of the year.
So maybe as far as formal action, can we plan on the last day of the month? I'll have what those numbers are and we can do a vote and then figure out when those checks are printed. Okay.
Yeah, I wonder if it wouldn't be worth following up with the auditor to see if we couldn't handle this as a gift
Mhm.
and not run it through the payroll.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, which we have time to, so I can
He,
do that.
he may not, we'll see how he feels. That way we know it won't matter.
And it will be kind of nice to have it in a separate check like we used to, because it,
Just makes it special.
yeah,
Otherwise, it's just,
otherwise it just
your
gets
checks just
lost
get
in
lost
here.
and then you don't take anybody out for dinner, you just buy groceries.
Right, but if you
Yeah.
hand somebody $100 check, they're like,
Oh, okay, I'll go. Alpine here. I go.
Yeah.
So do you personally hand out $200 checks, one off your personal account as well, just for a job well done?
Yeah,
I thought you did.
500. I did 4, you guys did 100.
Yeah, I think it might be more impactful if those were presented in person by someone. Automatic deposit, most
It is.
employees might not even know that occurred, you know, I mean, I
That's
would
true.
if it went to my account.
You don't even know.
Especially if you were a new employee that didn't know the
Right,
history and, yeah.
and you're just spending your money on tires
Yeah,
or a battery.
exactly. Yeah, we'll make sure we do that regardless, because I agree. I think it'd be nice to have something tangible for that. So I'll check with the auditor and then I'll plan on that, having a report for the last day of the month.
Right. Okay, Santa Claus.
Yep, exactly. I'll wear my hat that day.
We'll expect. And the
So we got you for 1 week before you're gone for a week.
All right, so also just a quick report. I'll start working on revised policy this month. And per conversations that we've had, my plan with that would be to have an initial revised policy to be reviewed by the commissioners and the elected officials or some sort of smaller committee. And then with the intent that would move on to a greater department review in some form. whether that's department giving, whether the point of contact talks with the department head and says, hey, is this going to work out? Or if we have some sort of bigger roundtable or something like that. So, but as of now, and then we would shoot for an adoption of the revised policy by the last meeting of the year for 2022 implementation. So that's the plan as of now. Is any questions, comments, thoughts on that?
I've got a question. Has Lisa heard anything from CTSI yet about whether they're working to get restitution for that sheriff's vehicle, the $10,000 or whatever it is the sheriff's looking for?
I have not heard anything, but
Okay.
we'll check back.
Because that case is kind of on hold until they find out if the insurance company is, going to make a claim or negotiate with, I guess it was Allstate or something.
So we're waiting on CTSI for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got a name for him?
I don't remember the name of the driver offhand, but it was the vehicle, the sheriff's vehicle that was totaled. Mike Halpin knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know which
Yeah,
case we're
you got
talking
the
about,
file
so.
and everything on it. So going back to that dedicated service thing, if we're gonna continue to do this, it has to be in the budget. We cannot keep, well, it didn't get in last year's budget, it's not in this year's budget, so I don't know. It doesn't really fit in community outreach, but either we need a line in the budget or something.
Well, and the tough part with it is, it would be nice in talking with Sam if this is something we can do as a gift card, because then it can just be, say, in one of the commissioner's line items.
Miscellaneous. No.
Right, exactly. Under miscellaneous, that's a good place for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if it is their budget, we just call it dedicated service.
It's okay.
Yeah,
It's fine, but
right.
I never even thought about it during the budget hearings.
And with it being taken out of salary, technically it's everyone's salary increased by
Right.
whatever it's supposed to be.
So,
Was it Don hide it? Quote. Hide it.
I've not seen it if it did exist budgeted.
Probably pull it out of general fund, but
Well, it would have been pulled out of everybody's salary. It's just and as we were going through the budget, we saw those, the breakdown by position that added up directly to the budget number. So as far as I can tell, it wasn't accounted for.
no, I don't think
they did salary and exam or something. It could be. I mean, ask them
Yeah.
what's the easiest way to track?
Yeah,
I
so,
think, having a line item in the commissioner's budget, dedicated service, would clean it up, but I don't know about the legality of that.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
The only other thing that I had was, it sounded like the road and bridge job description discussion that got moved from yesterday to today. I'll be out this afternoon for an appointment, so I won't be able to be here, but I can join in the call and participate as able, but it's up to you all on that.
I think Lisa said in if you wanted to,
Okay,
if you want, if it helps.
okay. Yeah, whatever. We had not, I'd chatted with Kevin a little bit offline about that, but wasn't sure with it being an HR thing, that if that's something that I should have been in or not. So
Eventually you have to make it happen.
right. Yeah. So, yeah, whatever your pleasure is.
Yeah, I don't know what, I guess my opinion would be if it works for you to listen in or whatever, call in, that's fine. I don't know what your status is this afternoon. Could record that.
Once you're driving.
Well, it'll be while I'm driving, so I can listen in for most of it anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna call myself
Okay,
on.
you wanna
Okay.
come in and out when you drive.
Okay.
If you record it, you have to get those little earbuds so you can hear the recording.
Yeah.
That didn't help Kevin any. Recordings are pretty tough.
That's all I have.
Okay, we're gonna have an executive session on personnel set in a few minutes.
Good.
Later, I'd like you there.
Okay.
For one of them, I don't know what's the other personnel issue. We need to see involved in that one too, maybe.
Probably.
So that's after this meeting.
Okay, after these.
11-ish.
Okay,
Maybe sooner.
all right. I will be back at 11, and if not, Tina can call. Thank you.
We'll work for you.
Okay,
Good.
sounds good.
All right, then.
Thank you all.
Sir, appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks, Braden.
thank you very much.
No reflection on you, but I would request a break.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right, break time. Let's
Live with
take
that, Adrian.
5:10. Let's come back here about 7 minutes after the hour. Last week. All right, we're back in session. Our quick break here is 5 minutes after, and we got Vernon up. Mr. IT.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
I really don't have anything of huge import to report. I just been basic operations this month. We're getting ready to put in the new phone system at the sheriff's office. And I mentioned before, our plotter went in the IT office went down, but I've had a tech out and we're on the road to fixing that up. So yeah, we'll have that operational here soon. So it only cost $1 million.
Yeah.
No, not quite.
Now, wait a minute. That's not what we discussed.
No, it was not. No. Well, the extra money is for all the other projects, you know.
Yeah.
So
So the phone system, is it physically replacing all of the phones too, or?
yes, sir. It will be a very similar phone system to the ones we have here. So we're going to be, these phone systems, in this building actually run off of regular telephone lines. That one over there is IP, so they use Cat5 cables instead of the regular telephone lines, but we're going to be replacing the big box in the back with something a little bit more compatible with what we have now. So we'll be installing a couple new phones because right now, the phone system the Motorola system is very, very limited in its functionality, and it would cost large amounts of money to modify it. This phone system would be a lot easier to change, and we can add more lines. So we're in a better place. We'll be in a better place in a couple of weeks. Be able to change the calling the auto attendant and voice messages and such as well. So we're very happy about that. Excuse me. That was paid for significantly by 911 services.
In your department?
Department's doing well. We are exploring new options for our website to make it more, just a nicer website.
Are you taking our hint at getting the mountains in there and the trees going?
Yes, we have pictures.
It's a small hint.
Yes, we have pictures. Yes, we have pictures that will be going up. We'll even set it up so that
Seasons change.
we'll have a
We ought to
seasonal
see
change
snow
across
and-
the, yes.
So right now, we'll have a skift of snow on the top of the peak.
I actually took a picture this morning as I was cresting the rise about mile marker 4, with the sun just hitting the top line of the mountains with the
Were they
snow.
red or were they gold?
They were more purplish, so it was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Very nice. So
That's good.
we're taking more pictures, and we're going to be replacing a lot
That's a
of
good idea.
what's on there right now.
Do you anticipate seeking our ARP money to help fund that, or?
Well, that was the discussion in the budget hearing. So I'm with the budget that you've given me. Thank you very much. We'll be able to pursue any option that is nice that you look at. We'll have a full proposal for you before we pull the trigger on it. But
Sure. That would be nice.
of course, absolutely.
Good. Well, glad to hear things are on an even keel.
Yes, sir.
So we don't really hear any coroner's reports during these reports, but
Would you like one?
Is there something issue? Just out of curiosity.
There are no major issues. We've had, as of now, we've had 20 unattended deaths in the county this year. We've had about 4 extra death investigations that we've engaged in, and some courtesy notifications where people died in another location, but their families were here, and so the law enforcement from where they died contacted us, and we notified the next of kin. So it's called a courtesy notification, wherein someone doesn't get an anonymous phone call being told that their loved ones has passed away. We actually go and communicate with them.
Physically.
Yes.
Very nice thing.
So we've had a couple of mutual aid, wherein we've worked with Saguache County. We went up into the mountains and retrieved some personal property and a vehicle from someone that passed away in Saguache County, but it's a long drive to get around here. So we were able to do that for the next of kin for that. So it's not a huge report, but we are busy.
Good.
Do you have to do autopsies on all the unattended deaths?
So the autopsy is an extension of the death investigation. Our job is literally to ascertain what killed this person. Did this person die of natural causes? Did this person die of is it an accidental death? Is it unnatural causes? What was the root cause? And so we do the autopsies to ascertain that. Occasionally we will find we will be on an unattended wherein the medical history and everything shows that, yes, this person really died from this cause right here. Generally, we do the autopsy because in the past, it has come back that the family wanted a more definitive prognosis about the cause of death, and that autopsy hadn't been done. And so the window is closed. So we want to avoid that at all, if at all possible.
So what did you report? Something like 36 unattended deaths, something like that?
We have 20 this year so far. Last year we set a record at 31.
Okay, but the 20 this year, they all had autopsies done on them?
I believe, I want to say that 19 have had autopsies.
Okay. And all that's always done in the Springs?
Yes, there are more forensic pathologists now, but we utilize the Springs because of the relationship there. Well, El Paso Coroner's Office.
Right.
They employ forensic pathologists, and they're the easiest people to work with.
And what does it cost your office for an autopsy?
It costs $1,500 for the autopsy. It used to be $1,000, but it went up to $1,500. There are other options. There are specialists. For instance, if we had an infant or a young child death, there are other options that we can contract with people that specialize in that type of pathology. Or forensic examination. So, but thank you God, we have not. So.
Good.
All right, sir.
Thanks for dancing on both counts.
Of course. I'd love to serve. I'm glad I can. Be well, sir.
Okay, Adrian.
There's an answer from last night. I'll just let you guys circulate that around. Good morning. Sir. Doing well.
Good group. I'm well, sir. Thank you. How are you?
Good. Get it back. And they're all flashing. My bow now. Let them get around. That's a pretty cool picture.
Yep, I sent one. You can see it a little larger on your email.
Thank you. Awful big phone. Didn't take too much.
That's my personal thing. Something to be said about following the Clinton formula. It comes to phones.
All right, you got a report here, it looks like.
You guys do have a copy of the report.
Yeah.
I think the report pretty much speaks for itself. November, much like September and the end of August, was pretty much a training and orientation into what an emergency manager post-COVID ought to be doing. And just mentioning COVID, I'm concerned. Some very close friends in the last couple of weeks here in the community have ended up in hospital with the variant. And fortunately, the science of treatment is much better than it was. And all of these folks are being released now, and some of them are back to work. So, I am concerned. But on Friday, we had the public health bus come in town. We vaccinated 304 people in the county. So there is a lot of interest. People are taking precautions to get vaccinated. And that was the most people we vaccinated in a single day since we were doing the vaccinations at Lang Hall. So it was pretty substantial.
So you still have a vaccination payroll going on?
No, we don't. That's just a reminder that we need to satisfy that. If you're referring to what's in the.
Yeah, I see it on here. I
Yeah.
wonder if you're still.
Yep, it's been there every month. We're not spending any money, but that's what we spent up until March of last year. But once again, the report speaks for itself. I do want to point out the budget spent year to date. That figure is going to be different from the figure in September or in October's report, because the funding went up because we put the money back into the budget for the hazard mitigation plan. So you will see a difference in the September budget amount, October amount, and in this amount for the November report. And so year to date, we've expended 47.5% of the OEM budget. And that shouldn't be of concern because there are carryovers in the budget that go into 2022, like the hazard mitigation plan revision money carries over into the next fiscal year. But when you look at that, I just want to point out the last sentence of that first little blurb, where it says that by year end, the county will have been reimbursed approximately $50,710. And we talked about in the budget how that money was going to be allocated in the budget. And I'll leave that to you gentlemen. But I want you to know that we have not received any reimbursement money, but by year end.
The promise is there.
No, they actually have the reimbursement documents, but that also includes reimbursement for the fourth quarter. So there's $50,710 that will come back to the county through the emergency management program. And then I want to bump back down. Do you have any questions on that? Okay, if you just bump down to the vaccination payroll.
Before you move,
go ahead.
The hazard mitigation money that we're getting reimbursed, you and Guinevere have been getting flack from people that still want to use it. Right?
That has nothing to do with the PLPT money.
Okay, you're talking the different funds.
Yeah, different funds, different funds. So that PLP.
Hazard mitigation and that was.
Yeah, but hazard mitigation planning versus hazard mitigation in the PL or payment in lieu of tax fund. So did that answer that?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we go down to vaccination payroll, I want to note that we still have not satisfied that requirement, and it's been in there every month. And when the American Rescue Plan funds come in, we'll apply for that. And if we're approved, then we'll approve. If we're not, we're going to have to revisit that. I'm happy to announce that after losing some very good volunteers, they've become very good county employees. I'm really proud of that. I have a wonderful volunteer, Gina Maloney, who's come on board. She came on board last Friday, actually, and she's an impressive employee. You saw her at work.
I met her last night.
And Tom, I think you met her. Bill, I haven't had the opportunity to have you meet her. She comes to us by way of the United States Air Force, 23-year veteran. They moved here to the county recently from Colorado Springs, so they have a home here in Custer County.
I think I haven't met her, but maybe
You may have, but she's a go-getter. And she has significant emergency management, homeland security training. She's taken many of the FEMA classes, so she'll be a good assistant for me in emergency management. So when I take off on a weekend, we'll have some continuity in the county who's familiar with our system, and she's going to be taking the EOC classes. And then I will more than likely, if she's okay with that process, we'll be looking to give her a small stipend under our contractual arrangements. So, like I said, she's not being paid currently, but we look on, being able to do something like that. Maybe the months of May, June, July, August, September, our busiest months in 2022. And the state, the allocation, I told you that they had upped their allocation by $7,000 this year in the EMPG grant. That number actually has been revised up to 45,000. And so the state,
Quite a jump.
the state is, well, 10,000. I mean, state is looking at having some help for the emergency managers so that they can enjoy their time off and still have some consistency in the county. So I appreciate them looking at that and trying to help us out there. I don't think there's anything else that is significant in my report. But I just want to remind you in the last special note of the report, Bill, you mentioned it earlier, November 23rd from 1 to 4, and I believe the commissioners were buying lunch before that.
You heard wrong.
Okay, I'm just checking.
We might bring popcorn.
Popcorn. I know there was a request for popcorn. I think emergency management can afford to buy popcorn, but hamburgers are always better.
You afford that phone, you can buy hamburgers.
And I don't know, that's really all I have. There's a lot of busy things, a lot of figuring out the job. I thank you guys for giving me that opportunity to complete all the training. So it was really a milestone to have all of that NIMS and FEMA training that was mandatory training completed. And now we can take some more relaxing kinds of courses. There is a conference that will be, we'll pay for it this year, but the conference isn't until February in Loveland. So like the state is having a lot of its conferences up there, and that is the Colorado Emergency Managers Conference. It's a 4-day conference where you get to meet all the emergency managers in the state and get to learn about our programs. So that'll be coming up in the middle of February. The radios, and I thank you again for the grant to purchase the radios for public health, for the Wetmore Volunteer Fire Department, and some new radios for the EOC have come in. They are being programmed, and we're going to reprogram them again on Friday. There's so many frequencies in there. If you make an error, it carries through to other things. So we'll be reprogramming those radios. But public health radios are in service. The Wetmore radios could be in service, but they want to wait until they have a training day, and they'll give those out. So they are here. They're in service. And I thank you for that. Finally, I just want to comment about last night's event. If you look at the picture, I just think it was very special to have all the emergency services agencies in the county, and probably 95% of all the emergency services in the county employees in one place in a non-emergency situation, just to fellowship with each other and to receive a absolutely wonderful donation from one of our businesses that support emergency services in the county. There was just, would you say, a good energy there last night. I think it was just an exceptional energy.
That's great.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I heard you say that you guys will prepare a letter to them. I know that that they would deeply appreciate receiving that. It goes a long way with their Share the Love campaign that Subaru has. And we're hoping that other small rural counties will look at what we did here in Custer County and pick up on that, and maybe get a business or something, to sponsor Guardian Angel devices for them. This is kind of becoming a standard for many departments within the state, especially those along the Front Range. And as the folks at Huberger said last, if wearing one of these saves one life, then everything is worth it. It's worth it.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yep. Thank you.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
about Status of your BOCC in a box. You've got the trailer.
Yes.
I know initially you had talked about equipping that trailer through a grant. That did not happen, as I understand it. So what's your plan?
Well, our plan is we have money in the budget. I'm more conservative on the budget. I like to see how we do at the end of the year. So we do have money in our budget and we still have the 50-50 cost share opportunity. And so we are going to, and we'll be revising all of our budget items and our bid, if you will. We'll be revising those items, rechecking. We're going to take advantage of some of the Black Friday, if you will, deals. And we'll be purchasing probably 90% of that equipment before this year is out.
Thought you were gonna get donate or use some retrofitted stuff also, some other places, a radio out of.
No,
I thought that you had mentioned that.
no, everything in that EOC box for the most part will be
Brand
new.
Okay.
And so I hope I answered your question, Tom. So we will be outfitting that over the next 30 days, taking advantages of the sale. And then that purchase will be included in our fourth quarter grant request, and we'll purchase it that way. And then the other departments who had agreed to purchase some equipment, they've already started the process of purchasing equipment. So by, I would say sometime around the 15th or 20th December, we'll have all the equipment. Then we just need to buy the brackets and try to, secure it so that it's not flopping around and getting broke. But we should have that project, I would say 100% completed by the this fiscal year.
And then for the good of the order, Meredith Nichols, our former OEM manager, has been hired as the Northern Regional Director for the Department of Homeland Security. So that was a huge hire for her. And
Yeah, I'll say.
She has the equivalent position as Christie.
right. I don't know where she's living, but glad to hear that. Nice to have one of our own go out.
Shows you guys might be tough, but you train us well. See, Kevin, that was the top of that.
All right, sir, that's all I have.
I got a quick one you might look into, because I brought it up a couple times and I think I talked to you about it. That we had a presentation a year ago or more on a outfit out of Colorado Springs that's training RPD pilots to certify them so they can fly them legally, FAA certificate. And they had looked into putting something up here as, because it's low altitude and it's not a lot of population, it might be a good thing to see if we can get them to participate, and it helps us build the case with the state for airport runway improvements as well as fuel systems, because they take Jet A as well.
Okay. Could you send me something on that?
Yeah,
Just on that group?
You do look into that because that's right down your alley. I think get a
Okay.
grant for it.
Yeah.
Something else that might help.
A lot of grants out there. It's just getting the right people in the right place. Gina, one of the reasons I kind of reached out to her, she's just got a diverse background. She was also a logistical support person in the Air Force, so she knows how to.
She'd love to chase that. Probably.
She knows how to chase things and make things happen.
Okay.
So I think she's going to be a good asset.
Thank you.
All right, the service. All right.
Just coming in.
Yeah, like an old teacher I had. When I give me an A minus, I couldn't ever get an A plus.
At least you didn't use red ink.
Just drop the pins.
Oh, I got it.
Your chair, right? No, went behind me. Yeah. No, unless they Ricky.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
Okay, thanks, Cal.
Thank you, Adrian.
Right, see you guys.
Do you want to call Jackie?
Yep, it's time. All right, that was the last of our reports. Unfinished business, anybody? I don't have any. Okay.
All right, thanks. It's on our way.
All right.
Can I request a short break while we're waiting?
Go ahead. Let's spin them down for 5. Okay, we're back. We're resuming our meeting after that quick break, and now we're gonna get into the item that we moved into new business, and this was denial actions on previously looked at STRs that were presented by Jackie just yesterday. It seemed like a year ago. Anyway, Jackie, thanks for coming in, and you can.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to start by just describing the process that got us here and the positions that you wanted to speak of.
Okay, let's start with Monday, November 1st. At 9 a.m., we went into the courtroom. At the time, Vic recused himself from being the chairman because he's still having some issues with his eyes. So the vice chairman, Keith Hood, took over the meeting. We had 4 special use permits. Short-term rentals. We had 4 of them. The first one on the docket was RJ Investments. RJ Investments have been running a short-term rental, operating.
How long?
I don't ask. I just know they were.
They were
And
done.
they come in to get short-term rental application from Kayla. Okay, so let's back up. Kayla takes the application. She takes all the inserts to the application. Then I try to look the applications over and see if there's anything that stands out that's strange. When RJ Investments came up, they were renting a bunkhouse along with their house. They were told during the meeting that you're not allowed to rent a bunkhouse. Then they take public comments. 1, 2, 3. There was probably 4 to 5 people at that meeting from that subdivision.
Only the bunkhouse was being used as an STR.
No, we told them that they couldn't use the bunkhouse
They
along
were
with their
using it.
house. Mhm.
Okay, no, so they're.
They were renting a house and a bunkhouse.
All right,
Okay, so they were told that they could not rent the bunkhouse.
and then bunkhouse is in close proximity to the main house.
Yes.
Right.
So then the chairman asked for an audience. Any audience want to discuss it? Comments?
Anybody at the hearing. There's a lot
Right,
of-
there was about 5 of them on that one, 4 or 5. So each individual got up and voiced concerns of why they didn't believe that this was something that was allowed in their subdivision. And then I spoke on how we don't enforce covenances. And then one woman got up and said that she did not want that short-term rental, that she had encountered people walking and prior to this. And everyone said that she had said that she had went up there and that it's supposed to be a community and she didn't appreciate the strangers coming in and out. And it was
So they're
not.
short-term rentals.
Right, so this was something that the neighbors already had experienced. They all spoke to what they had experienced from the short-term rentals.
But we don't know for how long it's been going.
No, it's not a question I ask.
Okay.
Had any of these residents expressed these complaints prior to this meeting?
No, because none of the residents only knew from the people that got the letter that the short-term rental application was being, we only address the people that are close to it. So then the word got around the subdivision that RJ Investments was asking the county for permission to do a short-term rental. So there was some discussion. And then Del Mullen had said, well, they did the application correct. Well, they did do the application correct, but yet they included a bunkhouse, which wasn't allowed. So if you want to hit on that, so they took a vote and the planning commission denied that application based on the comments from the surrounding neighbors. Okay, so let's go back in time. I brought some other,
Just real quick. Based on comments, so was that stated in the minutes of the meeting that the only reason they denied it is because 5 neighbors complained?
no, I handed you where they hang their hat on from the zoning. And I read it out loud.
Well, no, that, I understand that. That's noise, dust, that general statement. I understand that. So they stated that was the reason.
Bill Donnelly found it in the zoning and
Right,
read
it's
it.
there, but that was in your new good neighbor policy, even for a person applying for a building permit. New person comes to the county, like you have a welcome package. Is that right? Or is it just with the STRs?
Just with any variance.
Right.
That's SUPs, STRs, home occupations, short-term rentals, special event permits
Okay,
on
so-
page
Right.
60.
So I get that, and there are no specific decibel ratings, no amount of dust. What makes it objectionable, et cetera. So the planning commission just cited the general statement that says, unless you create some problems, blah, blah, blah.
Correct. Okay.
Want to get it clear.
So we put STRs under section 9, special uses allowed by permit only. And we have a list of them.
Mhm.
Okay, so I have a program on my computer that shows all the special use permits, all the over height variances, every variance. Okay, so then I decided I would click down to see what has been denied by the planning commission. So we had a Buddhist retreat denied. We had just the other, let's see, in 10/2 of 2020, Sanderson wanted to put in a trailer repair shop out here on Windmill Ranch. He actually withdrew it
Yeah.
because the Facebook posts and also the contention with the neighbors.
I kind of feel bad.
So we take in the neighbors. And remember, when I say we, I don't mean we. The planning commission runs this meeting. I'm just the facilitator and give the background stuff. If they have any zoning questions, I answer the zoning questions. I hadn't received any personal complaints about the first one, RJ Investments. And that means that when they get their letters, they can either write something to me and I read it out loud, or else they can come to the meeting. Everyone's invited to give an opinion at the meeting. So with that,
So RJ was there.
yes, Mr. and Mrs. Carter were there. So when RJ came to the podium, then I'm asked if we had received any letters. And so I read the letters that we received from the neighbors. We had received 2 of them. The 2 letters that I read were against it. And the one that said if they want to accomplish their dreams, they ought to buy commercial property. So prior to
That's all they said?
this, they were against it.
I know, but they didn't say why they were against it.
It's residential property. And they feel that running an STR is commercial. So this is a property. I went up there and
Did they-
took pictures.
Real quick. Did the planning commission point out that by state law and statutes, that STRs are a commercial business, but are treated as a residential property?
No, because what happens, these are letters that from people that are not in the audience. So I read them out loud.
Okay,
Now, when the audience members kept saying our covenants won't allow this, I did say we don't enforce covenants, and if they had a problem, their HOA would have to enforce
But
it.
you didn't point out the residential commercial difference. I mean, they were trying to make it appear that it was a hotel or something that was put in there that was a commercial gig, some kind.
No,
That's what it sounds like.
I just do the facts,
Okay.
the zoning facts. Okay, so then, I think Carter's felt like they were blindsided, but we all were. We didn't know that these people were gonna come.
Mhm.
And you've drove this far and you're a taxpayer, you can get up on the podium and there's a backstory to this and say what you want to say. Yes, Keith or Vic try to calm them down if they get too out of control.
Carter.
No, the audience.
The
members.
audience.
Okay, so then we go on and we have the next one. Ned Urbizondo, and he lives up in Highlands Ranch. So Ned Urbizondo bought this property and started running a short-term rental. I had complaint after complaint after complaint. I sent him a letter to the address that he provided on his property tax, like I'm supposed to from the assessor's website. And his letter got returned, insufficient address. So then I get a call, another complaint, and they have more people staying, the complaint says, than the septic is sized for. So I call Clint Smith, our attorney, and I says, I cannot get this guy to stop. I need a cease and desist. So Clint was getting ready to write a cease and desist. I had a deputy lined up because I had 7 people at that home.
Did you verify they were overbooked for the septic system? Did you see?
That's why I was going up
I know that's
there,
why you
but-
were there, but,
But I could cease and desist them with the complaints without having a
and
permit.
then follow up on that.
So then in the meantime, I decided I am going to get on VRBO site and I signed up. And in the comment box where you rent the house, I had left, you better contact the planning and zoning office. Then Ned calls and he tells me that they're family and friends that are staying up there. So I called Clint and says, halt the cease and desist. Then in the meantime, the neighbor called, said he stopped the people in the car, and they were a bunch of young adults, and they were not family and friends. They were runners that had come up for the weekend and that I had been lied to. I said, okay, we'll deal with it, because I had already spoken to Ned. So when Ned got up to present his case, he brought Horace's lawyer with him, and they presented the case. And then we had everyone from that subdivision show up and complain. It's a private road that 2 of the homeowners own. They said that the traffic is unbelievable. I was provided detailed
Which subdivision?
Highlands. It's up by Conquistador. I was provided a detailed summary of how many cars went in and out of that property, along with their description and license plates. So at that time, Vic excused himself because one of the people that lived up there in Taylor Creek Highlands is Marcy and Roger Gregg. So Vic recused himself from being voting on that. So then when we went to a vote after everyone spoke, it was denied by the Planning Commission for the fact that we had complaints prior, plus the people that were up there were against it. Okay, so then Horwitz was postponed because you don't see that
I
one.
know you got it.
And because they stated that they were renting a bunkhouse. So the they were out of compliance with the zoning office. There was 0 permit obtained for a bunkhouse on that property. So they were postponed the first time around. They had to remove the bathroom sink, the toilet, and the kitchen sink. So when I went up there to do my site visits, that they did not remove the sinks, they just removed the plumbing.
Mhm.
And I was sitting, I sent pictures. of
Ready to
it.
screw back in.
And then they had a shower. So the planning commission said, let them remove that stuff and then we'll put them on for the 29th.
That was the first one.
So you don't have a letter stating that. I handed you this from their attorney saying that they needed to get back on the agenda as soon as possible. And they missed the deadline, but they haven't missed the deadline for the 29th. That's why they're on the 29th
Yeah.
instead of the 8th. I believe that the planning commission, I don't have the numbers with me. Reggie's doing the minutes of how many voted against it and how many voted for it. I think the first time around, there was 2 out of 7 that was for RJs and 5 against. The last one, there was 6, no, excuse me, Keith refrained because it had already lost. He didn't need to
When you
vote.
say last one, that means what?
That means Ned Urbizanto, the
What I
deny.
thought you meant.
So we
You're kind
also,
of rhyming them together.
I'm just doing the.
Excuse me for interrupting, Jackie. I'm looking at the part of the minutes that I have finished, and the first vote looks like 3 A's and 4 nays, and then you were correct also with the last one that they had 5 nays, and so we didn't take the ayes.
That was a bunkhouse issue to go.
No, the first one
No.
was.
The
it
first
was
one was
RJ.
Okay,
the
I'm sorry.
first one, RJ Investments was 3-4,
Got it.
and then the last one was 5-2. They didn't take the nays. I mean, they didn't take the yays. I apologize.
So, let me tell you something that's been going on. The planning commission sits there and they look at the whole concept. They look at what is the backstory of what's going on with this property that is not included in anything that's sent out. I do that packet for you. And then as these evolve, more situations come up. People call, people complain, and then stuff. So it is up to the planning commission to filter out what they believe is an approval or denial. Based on the situation, they ask zoning questions, as most of them do and stuff, but that, and then after that meeting, it just started to evolve even worse. And I had a group of, someone put on Facebook about a board member. They didn't attend the meeting, but I took care of that. So
You had a quorum.
I had a quorum. I
Let
had,
me rephrase that. There was a quorum. They were legal to conduct business.
yes,
Yeah.
Can I ask a really care what Facebook says?
Go ahead.
I want to be sure about the terminology. Does the planning commission make it clear it's an advisory board? That they are only going to make a recommendation, they are not approving or denying? Is that made clear to the applicants at the time?
yes. And then also, I believe that the rules are in our zoning resolution of what it goes. You only go to the planning commission. Usually Vic gives them a speech, everyone a speech on how this is done. And I don't believe that Keith did this, but also They're also told to address the planning commission and not the audience.
Can I follow up on Clint's question?
Yes.
I can only speak to the commission meetings that I've been to. But generally speaking, all those motions that I heard were to make a recommendation to the BOCC to do one of the two things. It wasn't to approve or deny, it was to recommend to the BOCC for approval or denial.
Okay.
That's how the motion's been. I would request that the commissioners be included with receiving those minutes from the commissioners, from the planning commission meeting.
Okay, so after they're approved, Tina gets them and they're on your website.
Okay.
If the meeting is done early and they've approved the minutes, I go right over and I forward them to Tina and she gets them right on.
Good.
But Tom is correct. And every motion's made says, we make a recommendation to.
Do one of the following.
Uh-huh.
Right. And I'm going down a rabbit trail here, Jackie, but you're there, so I would ask that you pass on this message. When they call for a vote, parliamentary law says you call for the affirmative vote first, then you call for the negative vote. Both of those should be recorded.
And they are.
Well, no, they weren't.
On the
Reggie, were they not all recorded?
Sorry, Jackie, I would have to unmute. They were not. Remember in the last vote, he called for the nays and it was more than he said the ayes would be, so he did not record the number. And I asked for clarification on that and he said we did not need to record the number. So we only have the nays.
That's not correct.
Okay,
I'm just asking you.
I might have it wrote down,
To speak to the chair.
but how many nays did we have? I mean, how many nays did you have? 5.
Well, we just had 5 and I was told not to
So that
record the
way-
nays.
Okay, so there's only 7 board members, so common sense would say there were 2 ayes.
No, because you've already indicated somebody recused themselves.
Or they
I'm
could.
just
But no,
asking you to
no,
carry
okay.
the message forward. That's
Okay.
all I'm doing.
But when you recuse yourself, one of my alternates take your place.
Okay,
So I still end up with 7.
okay. My point is, would you just ask them to follow parliamentary law? I will do it myself if I see them. Your next meeting's at 1:30 in the afternoon, right? Doesn't conflict with our 9 o'clock meeting.
The 8th.
So I will try to, I'm just asking you to carry that forward.
Okay, if I remember,
That's all.
I sure will.
Yeah, because this is exactly the thing that's going to get us all in trouble if they do not take the vote appropriately and they do not record the vote appropriately. The minutes, I'm assuming, should reflect somebody recused themselves, and I'm assuming they should reflect that you brought somebody in as an alternate and they voted. But that all needs to be in the minutes.
Reggie, did you get that part of the recording where Vic recused himself?
Yes, ma'am. It is on the recording and it will be in the minutes where Vic recused himself.
And Justin took his place?
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, so just in the last little bit, since you have been sitting commissioners, our number one, we had a lot of contentious variances. We had Westcliff Meats. We had Sanderson's trailer repair. So Sanderson's yanked his at the last meeting, and I got the minutes from that, how he stated that he felt that the neighbors were totally against him and that it wasn't going to be passed anyway because of the neighbors not liking it. So what I'm saying is you'll have to talk. I just facilitate the meeting and answer zoning questions. And I believe that the people that came to that meeting also have a right to come in here and say why they didn't want it. along with the planning commission chairman and vice chairman, of why they vote like this. This is not the first time that variance has been denied. I have lots of variances that have been denied.
Got a question for you, if I may, sir.
Yeah.
It's been my experience that the planning commission, one of the few groups that I've witnessed, justify their vote. Did they do that at this planning commission hearing?
They haven't been stating reasons on the short-term rentals. Okay, so out of all the short-term rentals, one has been postponed and two have been denied. So the two that have been denied,
Well, let's be careful how we speak.
Are they? these
Two of
two,
them
or
have
are they-
been recommended to the BOCC for denial.
correct.
Okay,
Yes, and that's what I presented yesterday.
right. And I derailed you incorrectly. And
Thank you.
did
Would you
hear
like
that
to
this morning? I
apologize?
did this morning. will
I
apologize.
reran it 5 times.
I tried to own that. Yeah, so they have not been justifying their vote on short-term rentals.
No.
Okay, and according to our attorney, they do not have to. No person has to justify their vote. They can if they want, but they don't have to.
If he
The
wants to.
planning commission has decided that they do that.
That part, excuse me, about justifying the vote is for elected officials and public employees.
Okay.
These are appointed citizens. They're not elected, not public employees. So I think
So
they
there may
should
be a
justify
distinction.
their vote.
Okay.
Yes, there's a difference.
They generally do in a regular planning commission meeting. They just have not been in short-term rentals, correct?
But they don't have to because they're
Well,
volunteers.
I don't know that.
No, you can, the planning commission can decide how it wants to run its meetings, but there's not any legal, there's not a case law that says they aren't required to.
So right now, they're running the meeting and not justifying a vote.
And they chose not to.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead, Kevin.
And I may be operating kind of under a wrong impression, so if I am wrong, please correct me. I feel there's a little bit of difference between these pre-existing applications and the new applications because there has been a history of business taking place. Which is why I asked if you had received complaints beforehand, because I know that is one of the conditions. If you receive complaints, they're investigated and you can lose your STR permit. And that's why I asked if before these came to the board, if you had complaints. And I think I heard your answer that on RJ Investments, there were no previous complaints, but there were on the other one. Is that correct?
Correct. Now, when you say complaints, does that mean that I have to have complaints written or by phone calls prior to their hearing? Or does that mean that I can show up and justify my complaints during the meeting?
Sure, that's what the hearing's for.
It is, but part of the process, I think, they've been in business, I'm going to assume for some time previous to this, correct? We'll take RJ Investments because we already know that you had personally or somebody, the sheriff's office, somebody had received complaints on the other one, but say on RJ Investments, if the sheriff's office has not had any complaints, your office has not had any complaints previous to this, there was nothing on the radar to indicate any type of problem before the hearing, correct?
Correct.
So, and then the people showed up for the hearing and I realize that, and that's not to say that they're not valid complaints, but there had not been anything to the degree to where someone took it upon themselves to complain before the meeting. And that's my point.
Okay, and I guess my response to that would be, I don't differentiate between a written complaint to Jackie or somebody standing up in the meeting and complaining. That's how the system is set up. I don't know that one has any more weight than the other.
Well, my thought on that, hearing both of you, is you get a complaint by the phone, you get a complaint by somebody walking in or not. And so when you go into a planning commission meeting, do you say, I got a couple complaints, or do you say, I've got 25 phone calls and 6 of these, and it seems to be a big problem? Or is it just your filtering that says, me, we got a lot of complaints? Or you see that? I think that's.
Yeah, Jackie reads the written complaints.
Right. But you get calls too.
And I think kind of what I'm saying is, if it's a brand new application, there's no history.
Right.
So it is all just on what may or may not happen. If they've already been in business, it actually is something that has or has not happened. And in some of the letters that we've gotten asking for approval, I mean, part of your statement on those is, I haven't gotten any complaints on these businesses. And so that's maybe that's why I'm thinking down that line. Because if you had received complaints previous and they didn't even bother to show up for the meeting, you still had complaints and you would let us know that, I'm sure. So that's where I'm making that differentiation.
I had a phone call about this. And the concern was that if a neighbor shows up and complains about, with conjecture, well, I think this is what's going to happen, and I think this could be a problem. To me, that's not a complaint. That is a concern, and an undocumented concern for sure, especially in your case that you're talking about, Kevin, is a new SPR. It's conjecture, right? They don't know that's going to happen, but that doesn't mean that it's not a valid concern. I could come and say, I have a concern that there might be a lot of shooting of firearms. Okay, that's all it is. It's a concern. There's no proof of that. There's no history of that. But I don't think that invalidates a neighbor's concern. We've heard a lot of concerns about, well, there's potential that they'll build a campfire, or there's that they'll park out in the road. We don't know that's going to happen. Those are concerns that people raise, correct? Correct. That's the way I look at it. Now, to me, a complaint would be, I want to complain about the increased traffic that I have seen, that I've witnessed. To me, those are valid complaints. The others are concerns. So to me, those are two different things.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Okay, so we had STR a couple weeks ago. They're all running together. And it was on Todd Way, and it was a Stansberry. The neighbor across the street and the neighbor over the hill. I had 3 people. The one was a man and a wife. They actually stood there and said, I'm concerned of the traffic. I'm concerned that they'll trespass. I'm concerned that they're going to do this. But they got passed because the planning commission differentiated, just like what Tom said. It wasn't because Stanberry had already done it. He's been doing it, but he got the permit. But he said, well, did they trespass? Well, no, but they might. So the planning commission took that into consideration and went ahead and recommended approval on that one because it was conjecture.
Knowing that if those concerns turned into legitimate complaints, that could be brought back to the planning commission and asked for a recommendation to deny. Right.
Yes. So now that we got a lot of these rolling, I guess my concern is, and I got a little sideways with the planning commission, because is it just a blanket approval?
If you have somebody that's been operating one of these and now they're coming for this. If they have been, of course, they didn't have a permit, but we'll take that out of the equation. But if they have not received complaints to date, if they have been acting in good faith, they have crossed all their Ts and dotted all their Is. I feel that on this pre-existing STR applications, I think if they've been exercising good faith and acting as good neighbors, I think that was the intent, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was probably my intent at least, that they should be approved.
I think that's where the planning commissioners come from, that
Yeah.
I've witnessed. I've been to every meeting, but.
And that's why I have a question on one of these.
So where I am is about the same place on a little bit different perspective. In the beginning, and we've had these discussions in all these STR meetings we've had. I happen to agree with what Debbie said in part of her little speech up front. This is residential property and is treated like residential property with a commercial bent. And you have to behave like you're a resident. If you got a 6-person home with a septic system in it, then it's not illegal to go above that, like they were crowding people in. So that's legitimate. Good neighbors, where do you draw the line? If I'm going to be a person coming up here and I want to buy a piece of property up here and I want to put my house in one of the subdivision areas, what's to stop the neighbors saying, well, I don't like that person. He came from Denver and they're a rowdy bunch and they're going to be having big parties and I'm going to worry about it. That's a concern, but that's a concern every day. And so you cannot deny a person the right to build a house and live in it. And I have the same feeling if this property, we say they're residences, the residential business. It's not like worrying about somebody coming up here and putting in a steel mill right next to me. And you can conjecture lots of noise, lots of road business and all that. But they bought a place in the subdivision knowing that there could be a house here, a house there, and whether or not the family sizes are going to be whatever the septic system or the zoning allows and the water allows, as long as they're adhering to that. And so I'm kind of in Kevin's camp here on that part of it, where they have the right to do it. Where do you enforce the interaction that's a concern or an actual issue would be after that fact, and you can pull that permit, you can deny it.
It's not always after the fact.
I know. And so I'm getting to that part. I agree with Tom on the other piece that says, if I have, like in this case, I think in the future, we're going to have new STRs as opposed to people that have been in business already. So there is a track in the sand here that says you can't have a bunkhouse. You were operating that, so you have to go fix that. And I liked what you said. The zoning commission said, yeah, you broke the law here, the rule. We're going to give you a chance to come back and prove you fixed it and you're conforming. And maybe this is something, what I'm looking for is a need for consistent handling of the conditions or the cases. And I think you're there.
I believe that the planning commission is consistent. I don't think that they act on
Just a couple of comments.
couple comments because it's been proven before that they didn't act on the one that Todd Way.
Yeah.
I also believe that you have a planning commission full of volunteers that put themselves out there. So
I would agree.
a couple people disagree with what the planning commission's recommendation to you were. So they might be friends or they might,
Sure.
I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't care if you get it or you don't get it. I'm just there to process
I get it.
the things. But
We're
the
talking
planning,
broadly about the plan.
but the planning
not you.
commission is a volunteer board
Mhm.
who has done this for years.
Right.
I have 338 of these that they've done, variances.
Variances.
So this isn't something that they act off the cuff.
We got a question back.
We have a couple, somebody wants to speak to this.
Deb Adams would like to speak when you have a moment.
Okay, you ready for a question?
Mhm.
Go ahead, Debbie.
Okay, so, I've been, and you guys know, I've been in this game since the beginning. And so just a few comments, and this is not any personal attacks. Please don't take it that way. First off, with regard to the Planning Commission and the hundreds of variances that they have done, that is absolutely true, except the short-term rental is a whole new ballgame. You can't compare the SUPs with the short-term rentals. They're a whole different beast. You mentioned the complaints that people have had. People have complained that people are walking or that people are running. That's a complaint. As far as traffic, we live on a dead end road, and just having 3 more cars is increased traffic. So when people, that obviously don't have anything better to do but count the cars and write down the license plates, I just wonder what that increase is. Is it 3 or is it 20? With this being a whole new process, it just seems that the level of complaints, I know from the sheriff's department that he has only received 1 complaint in all these years. So now that complaints are coming out, and I have no doubt that some of them are valid, but it seems that by pitting neighbors against neighbors, because this neighbor says that, and this neighbor says that we're not really moving forward with this short-term rental issue. I also just question the commercial definition, and Jackie, I brought this up before, that in the resolution, the commercial definition is mainly considered commercial foot traffic. So I do concur with what Bill said, where it's a residential use of a residential property. And if the HOA has some other issue, well, as you have stated, that is not your concern. And then the complaints of someone complaining about the septic and the family and friends and stopping people in the car and runners on the road. It just seems that they are petty complaints because someone has fears or concerns that aren't necessarily valid. So as I said in the beginning, and Kevin alluded to it as well, if an applicant is 100% on board with the rules and regulations, has filled out their form to the T, that a neighbor complaint, they get to start complaining when the permit is issued, and then there's actual documentation of the complaint, because otherwise complaints are just hearsay. It's he said, she said, what is the truth? So I just really question the validity of turning someone down because a neighbor has a concern. It's not fair to the property owner.
Quick response, Deb, if I may. I understand and hear what you're saying. Don't disagree with all of it. However, I think we do have to recognize that part of this process through the hearing phase is to listen to any public concerns or complaints about the issue that's on the table. So we can't discount it. We may not agree with it, but it is a legitimate part of the process to hear those.
And I agree with that, Tom. And I did state that you give everyone the right to complain. And then I assume that it is in the record that so-and-so complained about whatever property. But if the applicant is just all on board 100%, I just don't understand why a neighbor, because I'm sure all of us would not be happy to have a neighbor tell us what we can do on our property. Now, the Board of County Commissioners can, And the planning commission can, because you have these rules in place. You have the resolution about short-term rentals, but you're just pitting neighbor against neighbor, and we continue in this vicious cycle. And I don't understand why someone who has done due diligence, why they aren't given the opportunity to prove themselves in that year. And as you well know, I had issues with the way this whole thing came about, but I have come to appreciate the process that you have put into place. And I believe that it has made the short-term rental owner more aware of the expectations that will be required for them to continue as a short-term rental. So I commend the work that you have done up to this point, but I just don't feel that neighbors complaining about what could happen should be a factor in the decision of whether they are approved if their application is 100% correct.
Understood.
Thank you.
I'd like to go on record about something we talked about earlier, and I want to bring that up before I forget.
All right, go ahead,
Chairman. There was a question, I don't know if it was brought up in public comment or it was in a general discussion about do the applicants have the opportunity to be in front of the Board of County Commissioners, either in an appeal situation or in the original process? And they do. 9.10.2.C.5 says that the applicant for an STR permit shall or may, in the case, appear in person or by an authorized representative at meetings of the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners to present the application. So they do, there is a process here that an applicant could be here today or any other time that the Board of County Commissioners consider their application. I just wanted to point
Maybe
that
an
out.
appeal is appropriate too. We don't have a. Go ahead.
West Cliff Meats. They came in here
Yes.
multiple
Right,
times.
Right. So
And then I'm going back to another variance. So I guess, and I don't care whatever you want to do, but I have 2 points.
Yes, you do. And it's nice that you do.
You have a volunteer board that has been on this maybe for a long time, maybe some of you think too long, but they have made this a county where everyone wants to move to. So they've kept a lot of the variances out of the valley floor. And we always look at the neighbors to see what they think. Well, I live on 35 acres. I don't worry about the neighbor having a short-term rental, but maybe I do when my house is here and this house is here, and I left Denver to move to a community where I thought was quiet and stuff. So I weigh them both. And I think that if you're going to make a decision today, then I want the opportunity of the neighbors to show up.
Yeah, I thought about that too. We are at a little bit of a risk by putting this on the agenda without prior notice.
Right.
Not only the neighbors, but the applicants themselves.
Exactly.
And so.
And I think
You bring up a valid
the planning commission should show up. And then you tell the planning commission that their recommendation is valid or invalid.
Well, yeah, in certain circumstances, I
Quite
can
the
see
right
that, but it's not really part of the process. I don't expect the planning commission to show up here to justify what they've done. That's why the rules say that the Board of County Commissioners shall review the application and the accompanying evidence before taking application. Such evidence shall include all items included in the review and study by the PC as well as the recommendations from the PC. So I don't expect them to be here every time we vote on something. Jackie is kind of their liaison to, which she's doing, of course. But it brings up a point. I want to throw this out for Clint to mull over as well as the Board of County Commissioners. I think we were remiss in developing the short-term rental portion of this document because it does not speak to an appeal process.
That's right.
And it does not say that the Board of County Commissioners' decision shall be final and may not be appealed.
But it doesn't have to because it's in that section under special uses allowed by permit only.
Okay.
And
does
that
it say in there
section
they
is
cannot be
9
appealed?
9.1, and there's an appeal process in there.
Okay.
So let's, in order to move on here, yeah, to the board.
You've already made your decision.
I'm
They're gonna
looking it
appeal
up.
to you because you've made your.
No, we haven't made a decision.
No, but I'm
It's saying
saying
the Planning Commission.
there is nothing to appeal until the final.
until they bring it
decision
here.
is
Right.
made.
Right.
So,
And once you make the final
Right.
decision, that's, if they want to appeal to court, take it to court and say you somehow abused your authority, they can do that.
Sure. all right,
There is no
let me make a
appellate
quick
process
statement here,
beyond that.
because I agree with Tom on that aspect. I think there is a process. I think we just haven't spelled it out stepwise. No, let me finish. I think it would be incumbent, they're making a recommendation. The denials, nobody's going to come for an approval unless for some reason, there's some reason that the planning commission isn't going to approve that. And maybe unless it's something that we know personally about an application that might cause it. But if it did, then I would do what Tom is suggesting right now. We probably ought to table this, move it and have it come in so that they can present the denial piece of this and their reasons why. They were not given that opportunity in time, it sounds like to me. Or did they send this forward knowing that where's the option to redeem themselves, how to correct it? I heard the bunkhouse can be thrown, all the equipment can be thrown out of that and they can reconsider, but the other one
That's
was
a
turned down.
postponement.
Yeah, that's right, it was postponed.
So that one is not even on your
So I
table.
thought it was part
No,
of that. bunkhouse.
No, I'm just saying that we postpone them, we deny them,
So,
not we, the planning
Okay,
commission.
all right, so
So
go.
when I say we, but
But let me-
in
let
the
me finish.
wait a minute, in the section, there's an appeal process.
I got that, I understand.
I'm
I can
looking for
find
it. I
it.
can't find it either.
What's the appeal process?
Yeah, go ahead and spell that out and then I'll because maybe I'm trying to jump the gun here and say, here's there ought to be a process. But the point is, the bunkhouse issue is pretty relevant. You can't do it in a bunkhouse. Jackie. You find it?
Well,
If the bunkhouse is pretty straightforward, you can't do it in a bunkhouse, period. Did they want to continue with the house? Or did they just want to drop the short-term rental period? Are they going to be allowed to reapply as an STR with just a house?
No, the planning commission told them that, I believe that's in the minutes.
That they,
I can't recall totally, but I think that they told them you can't rent a bunkhouse, which is fine. That they agreed to that and stuff. So I scratched off the septic that they had put down for the bunkhouse and
Okay.
stuff, but,
are they going to do the short-term rental in the house?
yes.
Okay.
And then
is that
that's what-
approved, or was it going to
that's-
have to come back as a separate application?
No, that was denied because of then it got denied. The whole thing got
Well, it got
denied.
denied, but can they come back
Without-
with just the house?
No, we got rid of the bunkhouse during the meeting and
I
they
get it.
agreed to it.
Uh-huh.
But then it went to the house
Okay, so-
only.
all right, so they had disapproved it on what
Uh-huh.
grounds was that?
You keep talking about the planning commission approved or disapproved.
Right,
And that's just
so
not the
their
right language.
recommendation now,
Okay, no, I don't mean it that way. I mean recommend
let's clarify.
Okay, so when I say
Before you say appeals, listen.
approved, I mean recommendation.
I get it. And so they went and said, okay, the bunkhouse out. And they said, all right, now let's consider just the house. And on what grounds did they disapprove the house being allowed as an STR?
After listening to all the neighbors
Okay.
complain.
All right, about having anybody there at all. So now comes in the appeal process. So what would they do now if they wanted to contest
We're finding it.
using the house only?
So let me,
You got a question out there?
Deb Adams does.
You want to wait on just one quick? And then you can tell us the appeal thing. Debbie, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to express that the possible problem of not having applicants come to a BOCC meeting is more than likely because just of a lack of communication. Like I said, this is an all-new process. Everyone is figuring out the best way to make it work. And I don't think the short-term rental owners necessarily understand that once they submit their permit to the planning commission, and the planning commission, is the one that looks over all the details and asks all the questions and then gives the recommendation. And I don't think the owner understands that the next step in the process goes to the BOCC and that they are welcome to be present. I think having a face-to-face between the BOCC and the short-term rental owners would be beneficial. So I think it's just they don't realize that there's that opportunity. And then as far as bunkhouses are concerned, the bunkhouse issue is an all-new issue. So it could be that they've rented out the bunkhouse before, but you can't do it anymore. No one is doing it on purpose, but it's a new thing, a new rule that everyone has to get used to. So it shouldn't be a reason for denial, especially like Jackie said, this person said they rented out the bunkhouse. Oh, you can't do that. Okay, we won't. So I think there just has to be better communication for the applicant that they are welcome to go to whatever meeting comes up their permit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Debbie, good points. Let me clarify one thing. Bunkhouses have always been off limits to live in under our zoning rules. So if they did have people living in it, they were either ignorant of the law, but that's not an excuse. And so.
And it's
so that's
all
pretty
way to-
straightforward. Now, you can throw that off the table, but the applicant can still pursue the house, which they did in that meeting, I assume, that's what I'm hearing. So what's the appeal on them coming here? And Debbie made a good point. Maybe they didn't understand they could because they didn't read the reg or whatever it is.
So when you.
What is the process? Go ahead. How would they get here?
Vic explains the process. Vic had recused himself. After the meeting, and Reggie's probably still on, Reggie can.
Yes, ma'am.
Reggie can attest that after RJ Investments was denied, I told them to get on the agenda for the Board of County Commissioners and call Tina to get on the agenda.
Tell both.
Yes. So, excuse me. So yes, I'm looking at the minutes that I have transcribed so far, and Jackie said to the investments, RJ Investments, you can go to the BOCC and appeal the decision. You need to contact the BOCC and get on the agenda for the mid or end of month meeting.
well, let me speak to the
Mid to
appeals
the end of the
thing
month.
for a minute.
Go ahead.
The one thing we haven't talked about here is BZA. So the BZA exists to do a couple things, one of which is to hear appeals from the planning commission. Okay.
They're quasi, oops,
That's okay. The
There-
BZA is a quasi judicial body established to hear variance requests to and appeals from the zoning resolution. One could argue, is this an appeal from the zoning resolution?
yes, it is.
It is, because the short-term rentals section is part of the zoning resolution.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so we just haven't spelled it out, other than the 29 references in the zoning resolution about appeals process. About the short-term rentals, do they come to?
all right.
the-
I can't make,
Wait a
wait a
second.
minute, no,
Wait a minute, no,
I
don't.
can't make anybody
Well,
read this.
I was in the middle of a sentence.
Okay,
so I don't know why I'm being
Ready
interrupted.
to finish it up.
So I don't know that it clearly spells out that an appeal specifically to short-term rentals should come here after we make a decision, or should go to the BZA after we make a decision.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make too. That's not clear, Jackie. You said you can come to hear the recommendation presented to the Board of Commissioners, and that's not an appeal process yet, because we hadn't made a decision. They're going to want to argue that we should make the right decision in that meeting in their favor, and not go with the board of the commission's recommendation to deny it. You see what I'm saying? So that's different than appealing the decision. They are offered an opportunity in this meeting, I think, to argue and before we make a decision. And if we make a decision to deny it, then that's the appeal part.
Then it would go to the BZA.
I'm thinking it would. It's
That's
not
my
clearly
impression
spelled
too.
out, but I believe that's the way I.
Go ahead, Clint.
Okay, I'm looking at page 32 now of the zoning resolution under policies and procedures for the planning commission. And it says, number 12 says, all actions by the planning commission require the majority vote of the members of the PC. At the public hearing, if any action by the PC fails to receive the required majority vote, the action shall be considered denied. So the way I'm reading this, if the PC votes to recommend denial, then it goes to the BZA as an appeal there before anything comes to the county commissioners. That's the way I'm reading it. Because if it's been denied, and it doesn't say make a recommendation that it be denied, it says shall be considered denied.
Right, only if it did not receive a majority vote.
Right, if they do recommend approval, then it comes to you for your final
Yeah,
decision.
that's probably, yeah.
So the way
That
I'm
would be a
reading
better
this
way.
right now, if somebody doesn't prevail at the planning commission level, then they appeal to the BZA.
And you wouldn't bring the denial to us until the BZA had looked at it.
That's how I'm looking at this.
Yeah, I think there is an inherent or an implicit exception here about short-term rentals. The short-term rental process, we never discussed BZA being a portion of that. Maybe it was inherent that it was already in here. But again, the difference is the planning commission, Clint, is not going to make a decision about short-term rentals. That's clear. They're only going to make a decision to recommend either approval or denial to the Board of County Commission.
And it's a sad state that we have a short-term rental in there, and we have this online in paper copy and stuff, and no one knows what they're reading or has read it. I do commend Tom, because I know that Tom has read this,
Right.
but that's, to me, I can't tell you the IRS, sorry, I didn't read the rules.
Yeah, you can't. All right, let me read something too, because it's in the same area.
What page?
Go to the next page, 34. It says purpose of the BZA. And it says number 2 says to hear and decide appeals from any person aggrieved or any officer, department, board, or bureau of the county affected by the grant or refusal of a zoning permit, or in this case, the short term, by other decision of an administrative office or agency based on or made in the course of the administration or enforcement of the provision of the zoning resolution. So they're going to disagree with that planning commission action. And that's why it goes to the board of the BZA to hear to appeal that. To me, it's pretty
It can't be
straightforward.
appealed to the BZA after the BZA.
That's right. You can't do
Because
it.
the BZA can't overturn what you decided.
We're the final authority.
If the planning commission votes not to recommend approval, then they can choose to go there, because it does say right here that if it fails to receive the required majority vote, the action shall be considered denied. And that's the end of it. It doesn't really have to come before you to ratify a denial. It only comes before you to decide whether or not you're going to approve a recommendation, or, that you approve it. That's how I'm reading this one.
Okay, so if the planning commission approves it, I bring a letter in here
If they
stating,
recommend approval.
Yeah, if they.
I'm sorry, I
recommend-
keep forgetting
Yeah,
the
I know.
word recommend. If they recommend approval, then I come in here with the letters and the commissioners agree and sign them. But if the planning commission recommends deny, then
If they vote denial, because they don't have to recommend denial, they can vote. If it doesn't receive the required majority vote, the action shall be considered denied.
then I can tell the applicant that if they would like to appeal it, they need to set up a time and go to the BZA.
Before you come to the Board of Commissioners with the action that you're gonna recommend, that they recommend. So that would be the process.
You wouldn't even have a action.
It doesn't sound like we would. It doesn't. So
No.
those letters of denial would not. even
Letters of
exist.
denial go straight to the BZA.
That's the way I'm reading.
That's
right.
right.
So
The
it's-
owner, the
BZA is a
landowner.
quasi judicial body.
So it's
To
a
hear
BZA.
appeals from, in this case, appeal
action
from
of
what
the
the
PC.
planning commission did.
Right.
So I don't,
I just think if you marry the two, short-term rental process, it doesn't marry up with that statement because the short-term rental process specifically says the planning commission will vote to make a recommendation for approval or denial to the Board of County Commissioners. The BZA was never included in the short-term rental process.
correct. It's in the body of
Yes, I get
the
that.
zoning,
Understood.
also with the fines. So you're saying, oh, you can't fine them because you didn't put that in that section?
Right, it's in this
I
section
think it's
somewhere.
buried.
You can change the rules if you want to for short-term rentals. If you want those to be considered differently, then you can require the planning commission
I would,
to make a
Right.
recommendation for approval or
But-
denial.
And we've done that.
And then
but
it
my-
comes to you.
but my feeling is, and I agree with Clint, I think from my point of view, I'd rather have them try to appeal that decision before they come here and try to appeal it while we're making a decision.
I
And they
agree.
can still, the BZA can still say deny, and they can still come to the Board of Commissioners.
Nope. The BZA is a quasi judicial board. Their decision is it.
So let me throw out
No.
a couple of things here. And the short-term rental portion of the zoning resolution spells out the responsibilities. Obviously, we know what the responsibilities are the applicant. We've gone over that 100 times. We really know what the planning and zoning office shall do. We've gone over that. The question then becomes, what's the responsibility of the planning commission? What's the responsibility of the BOCC? The planning commission shall make a recommendation to the BOCC, including pertinent findings. I'm on page 72, Clint. E4. F1, then I've already read that the BOCC shall review the application and grant or deny as indicated in section 9.1. So we've already built a framework through this for it to go from the applicant to the zoning office, to the planning commission, to the BOCC. We might have been remiss to say if there's any appeals, they have to happen from the PC to the BZA, and then the BOCC would never end up on this desk.
I don't believe that that would be the way it would go.
I don't either, but I'm saying that we just never put anything in.
I
there.
don't believe we had to because it's in the body. I believe that if you have an appeal, it probably would be, if the applicant probably should be notified. If you don't like this, you can appeal it to the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
All right, Clint, can they appeal a BOCC decision to the BZA?
Appeals from decisions of the planning and zoning office must be submitted to the planning and zoning office. This is all under the BZA appeal
Within 30
process.
days.
Yeah. And appeals submitted will be heard and decided by the BZA. Procedure for appeals. It goes through all of this. I'm trying to see what the appeal process is from there. If the BCA
Goes to
I mean, if somebody wants to appeal a decision of the BZA
Then it goes to the higher court.
to, to regular
District
state
court,
court.
yeah,
Right.
Okay.
yeah, that's what it says
So that
anyway.
means they could overturn our decision.
No, it'd be the BZA decision.
Well-
Your decision, a higher court doesn't really have any authority to
Right.
overturn your decision.
But they don't have a decision. The BZA has a
Well,
decision.
not according to the section on short-term rentals. The BOCC shall grant or deny the application.
The PC shall make a recommendation to the BOCC, including pertinent findings supporting the recommended action, and then the BOCC shall.
BZA was never a part of this section on short-term rentals. I get it that it's somewhere else in the document.
So did you have, did any BZA members sit in on, as a no substitute and this one there?
Yeah, my two alternates are BZA members,
That kind of
Justin
creates when
and-
you're appealing.
Justin and
people that
Mary
already
Mallory.
Voted against you.
Mhm. But they didn't vote against. One voted against the last one, but neither one of them voted for Dr.
They were
Vogt.
still sitting in on a vote.
Well-
They weren't acting as a BZA.
I'm compelled here to introduce a motion to the commissioners to postpone action on these two denials. And I'm not making the motion, I'm just telling you, I'm thinking about making this motion, but I also really want to go back. I think this is our due diligence, is really to say to Jackie on representing the planning commission, what are the reasons for denial? Now, we don't know that because we never got a copy of the minutes, right? The only way we would know that would be Jackie's interpretation of what the planning commission said or believed. If they don't say it, then you don't even really know their reasons. You have to extrapolate that from the whole conversation of the entire meeting.
I read it to you.
That's correct. There's no comment. Each person who voted did not state
Right.
the specific reason. You're correct, Tom.
Right. So for us to really do due diligence, we should ask specifically on denials, why is this being recommended for denial? And there should be the 8 reasons, the 3 reasons, or the 4 reasons. How else can we make an informed
That's right, you
decision?
can't.
No, we just got through saying they don't have to do
I
that.
know that.
He's
I'm
making,
just saying, forget them. I'm saying the 3 of us to make an informed, adequate decision, we need to ask you or the planning commission, why are the reasons that you're wanting us to deny this? Spell that out
Okay,
for us.
so you want them to come in a public setting,
No. What it says right here is when the chairperson of the planning commission calls for a vote, each member may render their
Right.
vote. After all votes are verified, each member may give a verbal statement explaining their vote.
You don't have to, but may.
But it certainly would be very helpful for you to have a statement on the record from each one. Their thought processes are not protected. Their thought processes can be and should be put on the record, I think, for your assistance.
So you see where I'm coming from, Jackie?
okay, I do, but I also see where a volunteer who doesn't get paid to do.
Which
the
is
job.
irrelevant.
No,
Yes,
no.
it is, because
No.
they accepted that position knowing they were not going to get paid. So that's out the window,
Okay, let's do that out the window then.
okay?
Okay, so you asked me to come in and tell you why I denied this in a public setting in front of everyone.
Yep, absolutely. That's a public setting right in
But
there.
yet this says they may.
They
do
may,
it.
that's
If
right.
they don't want to do that, they can resign
They
from
don't
the
have to.
planning commission, I guess.
My point is, Jackie, if you were a county commissioner, would you vote to accept that denial without any justification?
I'd be sick that day.
Just on the fact that you came in and said, they are recommending you deny this. are we doing due diligence if we don't say why? I mean, we have people to answer to, right? We're elected officials. We got to answer to these people, both pro and con side of this argument.
It's even graver than that, bigger than that. The denial can, in fact, interrupt somebody's livelihood. These are ramifications of the decisions that we're making. That's why it's important to understand that they are, but the
Okay,
variances are
so-
but they're being what their ramifications are. I'm being oversimplistic, but to me, I still have a problem with what order you present it to the BZA or to us first, because you read through the BZA powers, the appeals, the decision of ban must be submitted to the planning commission by a person denied the variance. Well, the denial of the variance has to occur. The planning commission just made a recommendation.
Actually, it says here that if any action fails to receive the required majority of vote, then the action shall be considered denied. So if the planning commission, if the vote of the planning commission is not sufficient to recommend an approval, it's considered denied at that level, the way I'm reading the language.
Yeah,
But where's the appeal, Clint? You can.
Then you appeal from that to.
Well, that's my point. In the BZA, it says they must have that from the planning and zoning office. I mean, that sort of sounds like that's the process, but then it never gets to it.
But parliamentary process, Clint, to your point, the action, it really boils down to what's the action? Well, the action was to vote on denial. That's what the planning commission took up, and they got a majority vote. See, we think the action is approving it. No, that has nothing to do with it. The action was before the planning commission. The motion was to deny. Yes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Not to
why.
approve.
Why are they
Correct.
doing it that way?
Well, they got to come up with a recommendation.
Well, no, but they could say, who wants to approve it? They could
Well, they might have said approve first, but that's why Keith sustained voting on the last one because the majority had already voted a denial. So he said, it doesn't matter if I vote.
So if I may,
Go ahead.
I think because I think the motion must have been, and I guess Reggie, this is a question for you because I heard earlier that they called for the nays first. If they were nay votes, then the motion probably was to approve.
Let me see. I don't have all of the minutes transcribed, but let me look and see what I do have for you. So Bill says statement 9.7 of zoning resolution, such use does not jeopardize safety, people, animals, water pollution, noise, vibrations, odors, or other objectionable influences beyond the boundaries of said property. I don't think that in this area that this use can be permitted without harming some or all of those provisions. Therefore, I move the Planning Commission not forward this application for approval to the BOCC. It gets a second. Its further discussion is called for. Dale says, I believe the motion is inappropriate and conflicts with the application. No more comments. Then they call for the vote and it's 5 nays and Keith
Okay,
abstains.
so reread the motion again, not to approve, right?
Yep, it says, therefore, I move the Planning Commission not forward this application for approval.
Okay, given that the way that was worded, then I agree with you, Tim.
Okay, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. They should have said move to deny forwarding this application, but they said move to not forward this, right? Which is really the same thing. It's just,
So then is a nay vote, a vote
it
to,
would be the majority vote. You see, a majority vote can be no, obviously, right?
well, if the motion was to not,
That's a
Not
double
send
negative.
it
It's a
to
double
us.
negative, and everybody nay says
let me
yes.
finish a second. Let me finish.
I'm sorry, Kevin.
If the motion was made to not send it to us for approval and they got 7 nays, that means they voted to send it to us for approval.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
Technically, yeah.
Well, we always talk about it, it's
Right,
all in the
according
wording.
to parliamentary law.
That's exactly right.
So if they voted, if the motion was to not send it to
So-
us,
But irrespective, yeah, that's true. They need to clean up the act, right? We've got to figure out what the appeal process is, and we're going to table this. I think we should. then we gotta do what we need to do to get the right people in the right place with what board and what, the zoning PC or what.
I think it is kind of messed up the way
I
this
agree.
Yeah.
happened.
It is.
And you definitely should give the applicant a chance to come in here
Yes.
and.
Which we did. That was done,
Okay,
but it could be spelled out a little clearer, the communication be a little clearer.
Okay, I said
But
it
in
in
this
a,
case, it was done.
yes,
right?
I said, Reggie, what did I
We got
say?
it. She already read it.
Heard it.
Yep.
We know you did, but for whatever reason, they didn't come in when you presented it to us, and that's their problem, the ignorance of what.
We sprung that on today.
No, I gave them the option during the meeting. I says you can go to the Board of County Commissioners, get a hold. I said they have a mid-month meeting and they have an end of the month meeting. Get a hold of their commissioner, Tina, and get on the agenda.
Right, no argument there.
you're
Yeah.
the commissioner.
Nobody's arguing.
To Kevin's point, we may have inappropriately added this to the agenda because when we did that today, then the parties involved didn't have the opportunity to be here. That's why I said I'm compelled to introduce a motion to postpone.
Correct.
Because they were told mid-month or end of month, and we just took care of it at the beginning.
Well, we have.
Well, we-
taken care of it, but
we put it on the
consider
agenda, yes.
We did.
Yeah.
Because in second thought, because we misinterpreted what we were doing yesterday, and that was, initially we thought, well, they didn't recommend it, why is it coming to us?
Right.
So we,
And if I could go back to Miss Adams' point, is it fair and right for everybody to not allow them to function and then respond appropriately after the fact? If there's problems, then we consider that. To go back to that concern versus a complaint. A complaint to me would have already had to have occurred. I'm gonna complain about this because this happened. The concern, this is what I think might happen, two different deals. So I respect that approach. It's not built into this process by any means.
well, and I really agree with you, Tom, 100%, that the issue then would become to me, we're starting here with the process. I don't care what happened beforehand. I care that if they are granted approval, that they obey the regulations and the rules that we set out, and then the process of how to deal with a complaint in the future or not. If this truly is as bad as they say, then what's the recourse? The recourse is we pull the applicant and they are cease and desist.
Okay, so my comment is, before you put this on postponement or continue it, the planning commission works at the pleasure of the BOCC. So I would think that as their bosses, you would contact the chairman and he can contact the members and you can ask why they voted for what they voted for instead of me.
True.
That's okay.
That's right,
That's okay.
because it's an interpretation.
That's
now.
right.
Doggone
That
right.
puts Jackie in a bad spot.
Sure.
But the process is that you bring us all the documentation for each. This is exactly why we had to re-vote to say, no, we're not just going to have the chairman sign off. We need to consider this
That's right.
as a board on all the documentation. Well, the documentation Jackie has given us does not include their justification
And I
why
think,
they voted.
and here, Reggie, read that last statement that you said that when in the vote, then Dale Mullen made a statement and he made a relevant statement. Everybody kind of glossed over it. Listen to
He
it.
did. He said, I believe the motion is inappropriate and conflicts with the application.
Right, because they're applying for approval.
Right, because the application was valid. He asked Jackie the question.
On
Give me a
whose
second.
application, do you remember? RJ
On both of
Investment?
them. On both of them. On RJ Investments, the wording is on, looking at both because the wording of his statements are almost identical. He said, I believe that it is an invalid motion we just made. I do not believe that anywhere in our regs it says disagreement from neighbors without cause is a reason to deny an STR.
Of opinion.
Right.
That's his opinion.
That's
his opinion. That's right. That's not a motion or anything. I was just.
The wording of the motion may not be right, but I would argue that that was a valid motion. He may not have liked it.
Mhm.
But anybody has a right to make a motion not to forward this on to approval.
That's true, but I got out of that they didn't, from his point of view, the evidence wasn't there to make that motion, to substantiate it.
No, it wasn't.
It doesn't have to be.
And it wasn't there. I had a cease and desist going.
It's his point.
Yeah, you don't have to justify
that.
why you make a motion.
Yeah.
If it's made according to parliamentary law, then it's a valid motion. Whether somebody likes it or not, it's irrelevant.
So boys,
Well, I have a great solution to this, but I'll bring it up after you finished your discussion.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, let's finish it, Jackie.
So I would move to postpone.
Let her make her last statement here.
the mid-month meeting's the 17th and I won't be here, but I don't have to be here.
All right,
Is that going to be here? Is that going to be a wet?
Here.
Okay.
We're done.
and Clint, what were you
Yeah, I
gonna
was
say?
already informed of that.
No, I was just gonna say, maybe it would be a good idea for legal counsel to be present at all of the planning commission meetings to be sure they stay on track and, follow the rules,
Not a bad idea.
which would mean a whole lot more money for the county
I
attorney.
saw where
Let me have a
Make your motion so we gotta get into the.
That's a volunteer board.
So I tried.
I don't think we need to refer this back to the commission. I think it's before us. I'm not sure I'm comfortable in making a decision today. I think we have to do some more homework. So I would move that we postpone this. I want to be careful about the date, Jackie, because I don't want to do a
The agenda
disservice
looks
to
like
the-
the mid-month.
well, I don't want to do a disservice to the applicant if we postpone it so late that it's a moot point. I still want them to be able to be in the queue. So I would say I would move this to the mid-month meeting on November the 17th.
Okay, I won't be here that week, but
Okay.
I don't have to be here.
Okay.
Do I?
No, I wouldn't think so. I would,
Get Vic or somebody to represent.
when we do our well, I'll wait. I would request a second to that motion.
Did you move? I didn't hear the move.
Second.
Okay.
Move to postpone it until the 17th.
Been moved and seconded to postpone this item that we have here, which we stated was consideration of the denial of the two applicants until mid-month, November the 17th.
And I would like to spell those out, RJ Investments and
Ned Uberizing
Tondo.
Urbizondo.
Urbizondo,
Yeah.
Tondo. Hey, so I will write both of these applicants a letter.
Let's just,
Oh, you're jumping the gun.
any discussion? More, please.
Does this fit into the time frame for them still to be in the queue to get approved if that is the case? Or now, are they going to miss the deadlines?
No, they won't miss,
You got it.
because this is like one that is already in the process. So even if they were later than the 12th, it doesn't have to have another public notice or anything, because you guys are doing the notice on your thing, so they'll be fine.
Okay, so let's say that eventually they do get denied. To get back in front of the PC, then they have to go through the whole process all over again.
Correct.
Reply, do everything.
And won't be heard until February.
Okay.
Or they could
That's my-
appeal it.
Which would have taken
BZA,
place
which goes a
Which
whole
will
different
take-
route.
But that'll take
Well,
until
Just
February,
their
March.
problem. Just that they got courses back. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to postpone this to the 17th for the discussion on the two rental properties, RJ Investments and Ned Urbizzondo. I'm sorry.
Urbitz. Yeah.
Urbizzondo. Say aye, Tom.
Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
Kanda, aye.
Now,
The spelling
Miss
in that,
Jackie.
Kelly?
Aye.
Yeah, you got it.
Urbitz, Tondo. So I would request Jackie to do what she was going to suggest as well, and that's to contact these people and let them know that this has been postponed they're welcome to appear before the BOCC. There are.
So I also believe that I will tell Vic or else are you gonna email Vic? And the planning commission,
He'll have to attend.
yeah, so, but the planning,
Well,
are you going to
you should
email?
do that. If you're not going to be here, you should request him to be here in your stead. That's where I look at it.
Why are you here?
Because the process says that the zoning office
That's not me.
Does not have to do that.
I was gonna say that I thought the document said that the planning and zoning office shall bring their recommendation forward to the BOCC, but it does not say that. The PC shall make a recommendation to the BOCC.
Planning commission.
So that's the chairman.
Okay, I'm gonna tell the chairman and you might get all the.
Tell him that you did him a big favor by doing this for him today.
And the planning commission will come in and Vic can invite all the other members. And then I believe that probably the property owners next door to all these people should come in
Well, that's
too.
up to them.
No,
They've got the
No,
notice.
we don't have any.
We don't
say
have
so
any.
about that.
No, do you want me to contact them?
Well, it's up to you guys to make the case.
I would. If you're gonna contact the landowners, you probably ought
And
to contact the adjoining
Sure.
landowners. Yeah.
the planning commission should make that point.
Hey, it's been fun. Can I go?
And I
Yes,
would
please.
think maybe we should consider checking the availability of the courtroom for that meeting.
Well, essentially, then you're gonna have maybe have the whole hearing over again at that point.
Well, it could be because it's, I mean, that would- if they were
My
there,
feeling is
maybe they're gonna give up.
you should consider on the basis of the evidence that was presented to the planning commission, which is unfortunate that they did not
Right.
make a state.
That's the whole point here is
Yeah.
we can't really do that because we don't have that evidence.
Right.
So wouldn't it be best if you just did a hearing? Wouldn't it be best how you started out with just talking to Vic and not involve everyone and get the feeling for why Vic? And then if you want to change the decision that the planning commission has made,
We're not changing the decision.
the recommendation that the planning commission's made, then go from there?
In due diligence is what you're
Each
talking
one of us can
about.
do however we want to get prepared. But the point is, the planning commission needs to come forward now. Because that's the process, and give the people a chance that own these properties to make their case.
Okay, thank you. I'm done. Put a fork in me.
Still over.
Yeah,
All right, let's move on.
I think to Bill's point, we need to do our due diligence, maybe individually, but as a group, I would feel comfortable with inviting the chairman of the planning commission and anyone else he wants to invite
Mhm.
to come before us.
Right,
It all goes back. We said it, all this is going to go great until we get a denial. Then we're going
that's okay.
to have tough decisions. to
Process,
make.
that's
So-
right.
But I would also,
Meaning he should
along
come.
that same vein, say we should probably hear from the applicant.
See, if we don't hear from him, then it should be.
I can zoom in. Did you
No.
guys second that motion so I can
Yeah,
go?
we're
We
done.
haven't voted on it yet, but
Ready, we're done with comment. All right, any other comments? Kelly, we good? You got everything? Got the motion?
You actually did vote on
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I wonder, we did. finish
That's when
this
you
up.
directed Jackie to
oh, that's right. Yeah.
do what she was gonna do.
We did. Out.
Thank you.
Jackie, thank you very much for your time today.
It's been a pleasure. If I had known,
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
would have combed my hair.
Sorry. you had to
Keep
come in on
talking
the
after
day
the
off.
fact and it confuses everybody.
I think the planning commission needs a full-time lawyer.
Oh, gosh.
All right, we're at the point right now where we're at an opportunity here for any additional items of business. I don't have any, Tom.
No, sir. I do
You haven't?
No, sir.
Okay, and I hope Clint doesn't.
I do not, other than the planning commission needs a full-time.
I'm assuming you're getting ready to take a recess, correct?
Yeah, we are, but is there any other public comment? Because what I want to do is adjourn for,
Deb Ann's would like to speak.
okay, make her quick, Deb, thanks.
It's quick. I just want to let you know that Custer County was approved of the CTO marketing grant. So that's a $40,000 grant with a $20,000 match from 6 other entities. So that's $60,000 that will go towards the now statewide program of Colorado stargazing.
It's strictly a stargazing grant?
It's strictly a marketing grant for that program, Colorado Stargazing, that takes in Creed, Crestone, Huerfano County, City of Gunnison, Nucla, Natarita, and Norwood. That's the 3 of them together. The Alamosa Convention and Visitors Bureau and the Ridgeway Area of Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, but none of that money, for example, could go to advertising on a billboard or a sign for a business in a given county. It's all geared towards the stargazing, dark skies thing. Is that correct?
Yes, Colorado Stargazing, yes.
Okay. All right,
Yes.
thank you.
So you
Well,
could
that's good news.
advertise Custer County as part of that and bring people in.
Yeah, and Custer County is the fiscal agent. So I will reach out to Braden to let him know that on our 2022 budget, that we need to show a line item of $60,000 of money in. And then, of course, it'll be the $60,000 out.
So noted. He's sitting here in the room.
Oh, great. Okay. Saves me an email.
Yep. Thank you. That's good news.
It
Yes,
is. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
have a
you.
good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Thanks, Debbie. Okay, in an effort to move forward, we will take a recess for 5 minutes and then we're going to come back for an executive session.
Well, that's 60,000 we pay for the planetarium I'd like to build.
Okay, we're back in business. It's it's about 15 after 12 GPS time. We reconvened the meeting and we are about ready to go into executive session. Was there any other public comments that we need to entertain? We can do that.
I would move that we go into executive session for personnel issues.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to move into executive session on a personnel issue. And for discussion of a personnel matter related to Colorado Revised Statute Section 24-6-402, paren 4, paren F, paren I, and double I, not involving any specific employees who have requested discussion of the matter in open session. Any member of this body or any elected official, the appointment of any person to fill an office of this body or an elected official or personnel offices that do not require the discussion of matters personal to particular employees. And the following, let's see, for identification purposes. The following people are, do we do that now or after we go into session? Following people for the executive session will be the following: Commissioner Tom Flower, Commissioner Bill Canada, Commissioner Kevin Day, Attorney Clint Smith, Clerk Kelly Camper, and our Finance and HR Director Brendan Wilson, and BOCC Chairman Tina, BOCC Admin. Chairman's okay too. Gets there. Tina Jones. Okay, all in favor of moving into executive session, say aye. Tom?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Kanda, aye. Okay, come.
I gotta get another file up here.